Laughing maliciously, the Dark Lord turns to the paladin, praising him for his efforts despite the fact that he is only a mortal. The knight with a grin tells the villain that he is still brave, so the hero notices that he didn't get enough. At these words, the Dark Lord screamed at the top of his lungs. However, the Lord considers himself the winner in this battle, noting that the paladin is trapped. The noble hero knows about this, but still looks down on the Dark Lord lying on the floor. The holy warrior reflects that even though he was captured, only one of his legs was immobilized. He believes that it was not difficult for him to win, but remembering in fragments the past moments of their fight with the Lord, where he was about to deliver the final blow, his sacred sword broke at the most inopportune moment. The paladin decides to calm down and think about everything again. He is sorry that now, without his sword, he will not be able to deprive the Dark Lord of his head. However, the Crown Prince should have already awakened from the curse, so his main mission is completed. He remembers the High Priestess, who will definitely scold him for breaking the sword, but says that his strength has weakened in exchange for breaking the curse, so it is not his fault. The knight addresses the Lord, simply calling him lad. The Lord objects to this, saying that his name is actually... But without listening to the end, Paladin interrupts him, saying that the Dark Lord's name is too long, so it's easier to address him this way. The holy warrior is going to quickly end this battle and tells the Lord not to delay and accept his death or run away. Suddenly, the Dark Lord begins to make a pretentious speech, but the knight interrupts him, calling him a weirdo. This makes the Lord angry and hurts the paladin with his words, which is why they have a verbal altercation. The Lord says that the knight will regret it, but the warrior himself flies in the clouds and again remembers his broken sword. The Dark Lord is going to destroy the paladin's soul with his spell because he is unable to harm the body. An ominous spell hits the holy knight, causing him to be interrupted from his thoughts. The Lord says that after this spell, he may need 1,000 years to recuperate. He begins to grin because he, the Lord of Darkness, receives many sacrifices. The paladin insults the Lord and notes that slavery was abolished many years ago, so he asks a rhetorical question about whether rituals are still performed and in what century they even live. Ignoring all the knight's words, the ruler says that among those victims, there is the soul of one weak girl who came to him thanks to a contract. Now he is going to transfer her soul into the body of the paladin. The hero throws his armor at the Dark Lord, who is slammed into the wall. Embarrassed, the holy warrior asks the Lord to repeat his words, which he in turn considers a stupid act. The noble knight does not consider this stupid, calling the Lord an idiot who is trying to joke with human souls, asking him the question of how he dares to say something else about stupidity in his direction. But anyway, the Lord of Darkness is going to do this right now, and even as a paladin, he will not be able to use even half of his former male strength in a girl's body. Confused, the holy warrior is about to say something, but the Dark Lord interrupts him and says that for the glory of the Dark Kingdom, he is ready to sacrifice everything. After these words, the paladin manages to shout out what he planned to say, and we learn that in fact, the holy warrior is already a girl. The heroine wakes up in a new body with thin fingers, tiny pale hands, and soft skin. The servants, who were watching the Sleeping Beauty, look happily at the awakened mistress, who has finally woken up from her deep sleep. The now former paladin answers the maid and asks if she addressed her, noting that she had never been called that before. Getting out of bed, she notices that the body of the girl she woke up in is quite small, so she's unusual in looking at the world from such a height. Now it has become clear that the souls of the paladin and the unknown girl have switched places. Our heroine urgently needs to act, and she begins to think about her future plans. She needs to immediately go to the church and ask for a team to be sent to rescue her real body. But first, she needs to let everyone know that she is alive. She decides to ask the maid how long she had to be unconscious. She, in turn, says that she suddenly fell a week ago and never came to her senses. The heroine decides to ask another question about whether anything unusual happened during this time. Pressing the plate to her mouth, the maid embarrassedly says that she just woke up, so she doesn't want to know what happened right now. But they still decide to say that Paladin Roll is no longer with them. It turns out that it was not enough for the Dark Lord to swap her body, and he also decided to physically kill the heroine. But there is also positive news. Now the soul of the girl who ended up with the Lord of Darkness has been saved. If this had not happened, she would have fallen into his clutches and would never have found peace. However, our heroine does not understand why such a young and wealthy girl would sell her soul to a demon. Her thoughts are interrupted in tears by the maid, who says that she understands how shocked our mistress is now. And it's clear that Roll herself is horrified by this news, but she's an ordinary orphan, so there's definitely nothing connecting them. Suddenly, the servant shouts out that the girl, in whose body our heroine is now, loved Roll very much. And now everything becomes clear. She was her fan. But the former paladin is not very surprised, because many girls loved her. After all, she was attractive, with a pleasant character and strong. At the age of 20, she became the captain of the paladins, after which she was nicknamed the Gifted One. Still, even though she was a girl, due to the fact that church ministers are not allowed to marry, everyone perceived her as the man of dreams. The heroine decides to play along with the maid, trying to show how shocked she is, and asks her to tell her in more detail what happened. She says that half a month ago, because of a curse placed on the prince, a detachment of paladins set out on a campaign to crush the Dark Lord. Roll notes that this is exactly what happened. On the way to the demon's castle, she was accompanied by her comrades, but since the others did not have so many sacred powers, only she managed to pass through the magical barrier. The servant continues to tell what happened and says that, fortunately, the prince's curse has lifted. And because with this stupid power spell, the maid becomes quiet and decides to say that it seems to her that the mistress is somehow different, from which she, in turn, is shocked by these words. The heroine says in her thoughts that it is not their mistress who is different. It is the soul in her body that is alien. But how can they say such a thing that the soul of the deceased paladin now lives in the body of their mistress? And then she realizes that she will have to lie and play dumb, saying that she has lost all her memories. She asks the servant what her name is, which she in turn replies that our heroine's name is Sila Iferio. She is the eldest daughter of the count. She is 19 years old. The servant cannot believe that her mistress has lost her memory, which is why she asks about it directly. But our heroine tries to sincerely answer that that's why she's asking about this, because she doesn't remember anything. Because of this, she has no need to lie. The servant asks our hero if she wants to try to leave her house under the pretext of memory loss. She starts screaming that they could send her to a nunnery, where her mother and the damn fiancé won't be able to get to us. From these words, the former paladin thinks about how life has not spoiled this girl either, and decides to ask what is wrong with her mother. It turns out that she is not her own stepmother, due to the fact that her son is still young. For her, she is like an eyesore. Her father is also not an angel, and since her birth, he has not loved her very much. Having received answers to her questions, the heroine understands that apparently it was the father of this poor girl who made a deal with the Dark Lord, so her soul ended up in the hands of the demon. Taking all this into account, a trip to the church is not yet possible for the former paladin, and she will have to continue pretending to be Scylla in order to find out more about this contract. Surrounded by large trees, there is a large, luxurious house in which the lady and her servants are currently communicating. The heroine learns that her brother is not the heir of the family, so the young master will not inherit anything, and now she is the only direct descendant of the house of Iferio. She also managed to find out that, in fact, Count Iferio, her father, was a primac, so his children from his second marriage do not have a direct connection with this family, and the count's heir is his eldest daughter, Sila Iferio. That is, the brother and sister have no rights to the inheritance, but the stepmother is clearly not going to leave it all as it is. The maid confirms her guesses, saying that this woman, but suddenly she stops and falls silent. But still having calmed down, he says that there is a new mistress. Using it, he wants to push his son into heirship, and the trouble is that the count does not interfere in this, adding that the new lady's family is also very influential. Our heroine is surprised that a girl from a noble family has become a countess. The servant believes that she wants to subjugate the Iferio clan and has already begun to act, and her engagement to this strange man is also because of this. The former paladin notices that the stepmother acts quickly, and it seems that she wants to get rid of her by hook or by crook. Getting married is the most harmless way, but if she fails, the methods may become more severe. The heroine asks if she can go to Roll's funeral, to which it receives a negative response, because there will only be people from the upper class there. They seem to be saving money. However, there is one way. The servant says that the funeral service will be held first in the temple and then in the palace, so there is an opportunity to watch during the procession from one place to another. Roel decides to go there, at least looking at his funeral this way, taking his servants with him. She notes that even after losing her memory, Scylla still cares about Roel very much, but if she wants to go there, she should ask permission from the new mistress, because every time Scylla goes out somewhere, she sends Viscount Schwat with her, and this time there will be no exception. But our heroine is not against this outcome, because she is interested in what kind of person and maid he is. Leaving the room, the maid notes that the mistress will definitely be disappointed and finally tells her to rest. Having fallen onto the bed, the former paladin begins to think that he wants to tell the church that she is alive, but if she says, "Hey, it's me, commander of the paladins," it will be a miracle if she is not branded crazy. Moreover, because of the services at dawn, before noon, afternoon, and in the evening, she does not want to return to this horror. And most importantly, marriage. Paladins cannot marry. The heroine is very lonely and really wants to start a family. And yet, he who devotes his life to service will be forever alone. So now she wants to live a normal life, thinking that giving her life to lift the curse from the prince is more than enough, and now she can live an ordinary female life. Holy power, the gift of the goddess, is tied not to the body, but to the soul, so even after replacing it, she will be able to use the power of a paladin, and even if this body is fragile, she will definitely be able to stand up for herself. But it seems that the heroine can only dream of a quiet life for now, and after these words, she falls asleep. While sorting through the dresses, the maid says that the mistress's sister ordered most of the clothes to be moved to the dressing room, so there is little left here. She left only the old outfits, and also took all 3 ceremonial outfits that were sewn this year. The heroine asks if her sister is 17 years old. The maid confirms this, and says that she is 2 years younger. And he's very jealous of her. She even took the things out of personal harm, since she definitely wouldn't wear them herself. The servant finds the freshest of the remaining summer clothes, but it was sewn last year. Ona asks the lady not to think that her family is thrifty. Perhaps she is the only one for whom new dresses are sewn only once a season. The heroine laughs, but in her thoughts, she notices that she has never worn a dress before, and the maid asks her to try on the dress she found. She asks if she likes it, to which the mistress replies that, yes, she thinks about how beautiful the girl is in whose body she ended up, but she doesn't have a drop of magical powers. Scylla says that she doesn't need makeup after all. She's going to a funeral and is afraid that her tears will wash away all the servants' hard work, but in fact, she just can't stand the smell of makeup. Many girls presented her with their letters and always sprinkled them with a little perfume, and she almost choked on them. Being a paladin, there was no way she could reject them, but her head was simply torn. Now, the heroine only has to find her mother and persuade her to let her go. She wants to look at the stepmother, who clearly did not even think about visiting her stepdaughter, adding that her reaction is somehow stingy to the fact that your daughter came to her senses after a week-long coma. The maid says that Madame is usually in the central garden at this hour. She had already warned her about Scylla's desire to attend the funeral, so she would definitely give her consent. But there will definitely be one annoying fly following them. The lady asks if she means her husband, to which she shows displeasure. The heroine notices that their estate is huge. Even if the house of Iferio is not close to the ruling dynasty, these lands belong to your family. Therefore, Iferio are extremely wealthy. When asking, she learns that the estate was built when the count married the new mistress. In her thoughts, she remembers the proverb that they say in such a case, hide wealth in plain sight. Finally, they come to the right place and meet Scylla's stepmother. According to an old habit, the heroine stands in a special position, giving her hand to her stepmother, to which she in turn asks her what this means. The heroine begins to wonder what daughters usually talk about with their mothers, but she has no idea, since the mother herself has never had one and decides to say hello first. Taking a cup of drink in her hands, the stepmother asks her stepdaughter, "So, do you want to go out?" The lady answers with a cry and says that she would like to attend Sir Rol's funeral. The stepmother starts drinking tea and allows the heroine to go to the funeral, and also says that she has already contacted Viscount Schwalt. The mother is surprised that her daughter is surprisingly calm. She, in turn, explains this by saying that she is upset by the death of someone she liked. Finally, the stepmother says to be careful, and with a hint of sarcasm, asks not to disgrace the family. The heroine notices that her mother is beautiful, and that's how she imagined her. The maid is indignant at these words, approaches the mistress, and whispers in her ear that her mother is beautiful only on the outside, but on the inside she is a monster. And in fact, there are rumors that she arranged the death of her mother. In other words, she killed her, which the maid is willing to bet on. The heroine begins to think that these are hardly rumors, because the unexpected death, such a quick second marriage and the house were immediately rebuilt, plus rumors of murder. Everything matches too well for these to be just rumors. They arrive at their destination and see a carriage waiting for the girl, But the girl notices someone familiar in the crowd, stops, which is why the maid has to ask what's wrong, and then it becomes clear that her former enemy is standing in the crowd. The heroine begins to tell how rivalry was always and everywhere, how the dog is the natural enemy of the cat, and the Imperial Knights are the enemies of the Paladins, and the worst of them are the Third Knightly Detachment, the personal guard of the Crown Prince. Paladins serve the goddess, and Imperial Knights serve the palace. They had a bad relationship for a long time, but lately it has been getting worse and worse. Since the Empress, the Crown Prince's mother, was a saint, she often came to church with him, and since he became close enough with the Paladins, it was the Paladins who took up the task of freeing him from the curse. The knights were unhappy with this situation, and the guy the lady met is the worst of the knights. Gainscar was one of her subordinates, but then betrayed him, leaving the ranks of the Paladins. Scylla has a chance to deal with what she calls a living misunderstanding, but she is not sure that she can defeat him in this body. The maid interrupts her thoughts. In a whisper, she says not to even think. He is the worst possible option. The heroine decides that her servant thought that she liked him and hopes that because of his status as a bride, he will not eat her. Viscount Schwat turns to Miss Eferio, bowing before her. He says how long it has been since he has seen her and that the carriage is waiting for her. To the sound of horses' hooves, Scylla Eferio, Viscount Schwat, and Gainscar sits together in the carriage. Her fiancé introduces Gain to the heroine. Skara is a member of the 3rd Night Squad and is also his good friend. The Viscount's friend bows to the bride, and she turns away from him and says, "Wonderful." But in her thoughts, she says that she does not want to meet his gaze. Otherwise, she will begin to incinerate him. The heroine's groom notices that she is silent, as always, to which she silently says not to piss her off and that she doesn't talk to him. But she should have been nicer to him. However, she cannot, because she cannot shake the feeling that it is better for her to remain silent. The Viscount says that he heard that Scylla was sick for a while and that he, as a future husband, should have visited her. He regrets that he did not do so. Angry, she says in her thoughts that he didn't even come to the bride in a coma and that there can be no mistake, he is the worst. However, she tells him that it's okay. Looking out the window, she asks her husband if they were on the wrong road. He explains that the main road and nearby areas are closed due to the funeral, so they will have to take a detour. But no, it's not just that. The heroine didn't even give a hint about where she wants to go, so she decides that the Viscount is a very shady guy. Scylla decides that she will go with the flow, wondering what they are planning. Coming out of the carriage, her husband offers his hand to the exiting Scylla. She thinks that before she had not thought about how much an outstretched hand could hurt pride. It's like she's some kind of weakling. But she remembers that girls liked it, but she's not sure. Still, she decides to get out of the carriage without the help of her husband. After the heroine gets out of the carriage, she notices that they are in the countryside near an old bar. She begins to wonder what horrors could be happening here, and that it would be great if it turned out to be somehow connected with a contract with a demon. She asks the Viscount if he needs to meet someone here, and he answers that yes, and asks if she will go with him. Entering the old bar, where silence reigns, the husband tells Gain to wait for them here, and asks Miss Eferio to follow him to the 2nd floor. The heroine asks him if she should go there, to which he replies, "Why not? There's nothing to do there without her." She understands that all this is very suspicious, and most likely it is really connected with the contract. At this moment, the Viscount begins to grin and chuckle ominously. Having gone up to the 2nd floor and entering the room, Syl tells him that it looks like there is no one here yet, and also says to herself that she would not like to be late for the funeral. The Viscount closes the door to the room and tells her not to pretend to be an unintelligent girl. Laughing, he asks the heroine if she really thinks she can get out of here alive. At first, the lady does not understand why he spoke so strangely, but realizing what is happening, she asks him if he is going to attack her. Smirking, the Viscount sarcastically asks the heroine why it is taking so long for her to understand this. Walking up to Scylla and grabbing her hands, he says that she always behaves like a wild cat with him, but today she will be a good and obedient girl. He thinks that she has come to terms with this, yet the heroine is in a trap, so she should. Gritting her teeth, the girl advises him to cover her mouth and, using her holy powers, hits the Viscount with her fist. From such a blow, he shrinks all over, barely standing on his feet, and Syl tells him that if he makes a sound, he will be finished. The Viscount lies writhing and coughing on the floor after being hit hard by Syl. Putting her foot on him, she says it's better not to rock the boat with him, because she could easily smash his head, and Gain won't have time to do anything. The lady says that no one will ever believe that such a miniature girl could break someone's skull, so the blame for the murder will be blamed on Gain. So he should think 100 times before doing it. Trembling on the floor, the husband insults the heroine and asks her how she dares to do this. Straightening her hair, Syl says that she didn't think that he should have broken his limbs before the negotiations began and gets down to business. After she breaks his bones, the Viscount lies on the floor and barely asks someone to help him. The heroine tells him to simply answer her questions, and she decides to start with the fact that he is connected with Countess Eferio. The Viscount replies that after he deals with her, she promised him part of her possessions. He asks for forgiveness and says that she never obeyed him, but the Countess demanded that Scylla be deprived of her virginity at any cost. Miss Eferio comes to the conclusion that they made a deal, but for some reason she does not hear remorse from him. Speaking in her thoughts, she notes that the Viscount is just one of her pawns and the matter is rubbish. Scylla opens the window and decides to jump, but finally tells the Viscount that she hopes he won't tell anyone about what happened and advises him to break the engagement. She notes that it is better to obey him. This will only make him healthier. Jumping from the window, the heroine lands painfully due to the fact that she is wearing heels, and, if not for her holy power, they would have already broken. She remembers Gain and decides to get out of here as quickly as possible. Running to the funeral, she sees a crowd of people and paladins mourning the dead body of Roel. She thinks about how strange she feels about how they are all dying for her. Her comrades carry the coffin, the greatest tribute possible. She is sincerely grateful to all of them, but she doesn't understand why these fools cry so hard, saying that they were everything to her. Enraged by this, she realizes that she should not have come to her own funeral. Scylla returns to her home, where she is greeted by the servants. The servant begins to ask the heroine why she is so pale. She, in turn, is embarrassed and says that nothing happened, she was just tired. The maid advises the lady to rest quickly, adding that she has already prepared a bath for her. While taking a bath, Syl thinks that she is not to blame for anything, but feels like pure evil, who simply abandoned her comrades and enjoys a new life in so-called luxury. She decides to return, become a paladin in the service of the goddess, yet her soul is still the same, only her body has changed. But then she will first have to meet with the priestess, but she's not sure that she will succeed. Advent Day is the day marked by the date of the coming of the goddess into the mortal world, and those who laid down their lives in her service gather in the main hall to receive blessings from the priests. Of course, only priests and those of equal rank to paladins can enter the hall, although, even being part of the church, it is very difficult to meet the high priestess. But if she meets her, the priestess will definitely be able to recognize her soul since she has a connection with the goddess. First, the heroine needs to join the ranks of the churchmen. It's not difficult. Anyone who has sacred powers will be accepted into the church. There are 3 months left until the day of Advent. She needs to get to church by then and crush the Count. Roel will avenge Scylla Eferio, donate her money to the church, and confirm his true identity. 3 birds with 1 stone! The lady tells the servants that she would like to see her father. But the servant says that the Count does not usually visit her unless he has some important business to do with her. This once again proves that he does not value her at all. Then she decides to talk to her stepmother because her engagement is broken. The maid is shocked by this news, and she asks if the heroine did this. Syl tells the story of how the Viscount said that he did not want to see her anymore, and nothing could be done about it. Even if the Countess is not her own mother, she must inform her about this. The servant happily says that this is great, and she can't wait for her reaction. The heroine comes to her stepmother and is about to tell her something, but the latter, in turn, asks her to sit next to her. Starting her story about the Viscount, she is immediately interrupted by her mother, who says that she knows that he is not nice to her, but even so, she should not have killed him. Syl is perplexed and asks if her ex-husband is dead, to which the stepmother responds positively. The girl begins to wonder how he could die from the injuries she left him. She says that the Viscount was completely healthy when she left him, and then goes back into thought. She says that he was wounded, but there was definitely nothing fatal there. From her 10 years of combat experience, she understands wounds. The heroine asks why she is blamed for his death. The stepmother replies with a grin that she is blamed for this because she was the one who killed him. Roel says rather empty accusations. How could she kill a healthy man? And besides, there was an imperial knight with him. How could she handle the 2 of them? But despite this, the stepmother says that there is a witness to her crime. However, there can only be one witness who betrayed her and left the ranks of the paladins, Gain Scar. The stepmother is surprised that she knows him, but not much, since the killer must know him. The heroine asks about the evidence, although what kind of evidence is there? Scylla Efario would not have the strength to kill the Viscount. Roll says she knows her mother just wants to get rid of her, but frame her for murder. Her witness is clearly a fake. The mother says that according to the witness, she tricked him and led him into a trap. Scylla Efario, who she knows, would never just go to a bar with a stranger, to which the heroine replies that she had no other choice. But still, she returned from there unharmed. The heroine explains this by saying that she put all her strength into resistance and then jumped out of the second-floor window. But the Countess does not believe that a frail 19-year-old girl, wearing high-heeled shoes, safely jumped out of the window and disappeared from two men. Roll understands that if she mentions the sacred power, they will have an additional argument in favor of her guilt, so she begins to believe a little that everything is over. Suddenly, someone put a sword to her neck from behind, and it turns out to be the Imperial Knight Gyn Skar. He says that he came here to arrest her on suspicion of murdering Viscount Schwalt. The heroine says that he does not have the authority to arrest her. To herself, she begins to wonder why their brave law enforcement officers do not make arrests and blame everything on the knights. But still, she cannot hide from him. Gyn says that he does not have authority, but he has the right. The matter concerns the murder of his friend, and he is responsible for what is happening. The stepmother gets up and wipes her mouth with a handkerchief and asks her Skar to take care of her unfortunate daughter. Scylla Efario gets up from her seat and says that she can go on her own and asks not to touch her with your dirty hands. Scylla Efario was taken to prison. She says that she has put people here before, but this is her first time here. The heroine thinks that if she is found guilty, she will be executed. But she cannot die so soon, and if she does die, she will drag Gyn into the underworld with her. Two unknown men come to Scylla. She asks what they want from her. They say that her mother asked them to take good care of her, so that she would not even think of lying in court. The mistress reflects on the fact that the Countess seriously sent her two puppies to her stepdaughter, adding sarcastically how caring she is. The man, laughing maliciously, tells the girl not to be afraid. They will play happily and friendly if she behaves well. In response to this, Scylla kicks one of the men, causing him to fall to the ground. She says that she is ready to play with them all day long and asks if they can do the same. After some time, her servant Sophia comes to the heroine and asks with concern how her mistress is doing, and she says that everything is not very good. Scylla plays cards with the men she beat, and apparently she beat them all the times. The lady asks her servant how things are at home. Sophia begins to say that, apart from the fact that the Countess allowed her to visit her, nothing has changed. Roll thinks that her stepmother is very interested in knowing how she is doing here, so she sent a maid to her. She asks the maid to tell her that she's on the verge of death. This will help her. Sophia is still a little worried and asks the lady if everything will definitely be fine in the trial, and Scylla asks her not to worry about it. But in reality, she understands that she has big problems, so her worries are justified. One of the men sent by the Countess asks the lady if everything is really okay. She thinks that she beat him too much, that he lost his mind, and is now sincerely worried about her. The lady tells them that she won't die so easily, so don't worry. Although she said exactly the same thing before going to the Dark Lord's castle, this time she definitely cannot die. Seloy begins a Efario in which, as the prosecutor said, she is accused of the murder of Viscount Schwalt. The Countess's pawns, one and all, insisted that the Countess's stepdaughter, Scylla Efario, was always dissatisfied with her fiancé. And suddenly, her lover appeared in the courtroom. He played the role of accomplice because the Viscount was an obstacle to their love, and they supposedly planned everything that happened that day. The heroine says to herself that it is as if she is watching a theatrical performance, and the performance would be simply wonderful if she were not in the leading roles. The prosecutor asks to invite the last witness, after which they will give the floor to the accused. But Scylla doesn't understand why she should say anything else. This whole production has left her speechless, and she would be much better off just running away. The court, according to the rules, should hear Gyn Skara as the last witness, but he is too busy and therefore sent his representative in his place. A man enters the hall, and Roll is shocked by the sight of him. As Gyn's representative Skara, the so-called watchdog, has arrived, captain of the Special Forces Unit, Yuka's leader. In addition to the knights, the Emperor has another line of defense, Imperial Watchdogs, Special Forces Squad. All they care about is power. Unlike knights who honor origins, dogs don't care about your past or your family. If you are strong, you can get into their ranks, so they are rightfully considered the strongest squad, and this man is their captain. Yukis says that he is not a representative, he is a witness. The captain decides to tell everything he saw. Scylla doesn't understand what he can say because he wasn't there. But Yukis begins his story and says that on that day, Scylla Eferio jumped out of the second-floor window, landed on the ground, looked around, and ran away. And yet it turns out that he really saw everything. Narrating further, Litter says that afterwards he clearly heard the voice of the Viscount swearing heavily, so Scylla Eferio cannot be guilty of his murder. Roel has no idea where he could be hiding then, but decides not to waste his chance and tells the court that Captain Yukis is right. She jumped out of the window to escape the Viscount. She has no idea what happened to him after that. Also adding that she is seeing her lover for the first time. Gyn about it. The judge decides to begin questioning because evidence has emerged for the defense, and they must ensure its reliability. And the court makes its decision, due to the lack of evidence to prove guilt. Scylla Eferio is found not guilty. Roel rejoices at this outcome of events and is already enjoying freedom. But suddenly, Yukis appears in front of her, who turns to the lady. The heroine asks what the captain needs from her, but first decides to thank him. After this, the captain wonders if he can talk to her. And since she was cleared of the charges, she has a lot of free time, so, of course, she can talk. Scylla notices that they are going to the palace, and Yukis confirms her remark. She thinks that they are most likely heading straight to the squad's headquarters in the palace. With difficulty, but still she can guess why. The lady asks how His Highness the Crown Prince is feeling. The captain replies that it's relatively bad, but he still blames himself for what happened. Roel understands that the prince blames himself for the fact that she had to sacrifice herself to save him. Scylla says she doesn't think there's any point in this. No one would want the saved to blame themselves for their salvation. The title of paladin implies a readiness to give one's life at any moment, therefore. Yukis interrupts her and tells her to stop talking nonsense. This makes the heroine start to get mad, because she knows better, and what difference does it make to him? Heading to the palace, the captain leads Scylla along. She thinks about how long it's been since she's been here, and remembers that when she first joined the ranks of the paladins, she sometimes had to be at their beck and call. Suddenly, a blade flies towards the heroine, from which she dodges, but still a strand of hair falls from her head. Crouching, Roel asks himself what the hell just happened. Scylla looks at where the blade came from and notices the guy standing. She immediately heads towards him and tries to knock him down, but she doesn't succeed because she doesn't have enough strength in this body. Because of this, the guy manages to jump away from the heroine. The unknown man addresses his commander, which frightens the lady, thinking that he is addressing her. Yukis's squad tells him that Scylla is not like her because she uses holy power and notices her unprecedented strength. The lady approaches the captain and asks him to lend her his sword. She explains this by saying that, apparently he confused her with someone, and since they have already admitted their mistake, she can rightfully get even with that guy. She says that without a weapon, she can't beat the crap out of him, so she asks to borrow a sword. The guy turns to the commander and hopefully asks that he won't lend her the Kalidos. But all his hope is destroyed by Yukis's words, and he gives her his sword. The heroine tells the guy to beg for mercy. The lady aimed at the fleeing guy with the commander's sword and gave chase to him. Having lost her goal, she notices how nimble he is. Turning around, she notices the training facilities. The girl decides to test the place that Yukis lent her and easily chops down the mannequins with one blow. Having tested the sword, she liked it so much that she decided to simply steal the legendary sword, Kalidos. Her thoughts about the beautiful sword are interrupted by a passing guy who asks her, "Isn't this the Kalidos?" The captain's sword. The lady tells the unknown boy that she borrowed it from the commander. Introducing the boy about Yukisa Ladera, he still agrees that it is impossible to steal something from him, so he believes the girl. Scylla decides to ask if he knows the lightning-fast rat with blonde hair who is in the squad. The guy says that this is Crown, and since he managed to escape, it means he is already somewhere far away. The boy now decides to ask the girl himself who she is. The heroine, almost accidentally introducing herself with her past name, introduces herself as Scylla Eferio, eldest daughter of Count Eferio. The guy recognizes the girl and says that he is Latroy, but everyone calls him Lottie. The lady is surprised that he knows her and asks where. Lottie explains that the captain brought her here and also points to the sword that was lent to her. Asking even more questions, Scylla decides that the best option would be to ask the captain himself about everything directly. For this reason, she asks Lottie where Yukis is now, because she got lost due to the chase. Lottie takes her to the place where the commander is and leaves. The lady knocks on the door and is let inside, where the captain stands and, as Latroy called him, Dark Lord. Scylla comes to Yukis to give him the sword that he borrowed, but she gives it to him with little desire. The man who sits next to the captain begins to scold him for giving away the Kalidos, a gift from His Majesty, and a symbol of the specific duties of the captain of the detachment. The commander asks his assistant that he cannot be given the sword. Roel thinks that Yukes simply borrowed it, and she herself broke her sacred sword. The assistant replies that, of course, he cannot lend him his sword and asks him to be more careful in the future. In an awkward situation, Scylla gives the Kalidos to her master. Bowing, the heroine says that she could not catch the scoundrel and thanks the captain for giving her his sword. Putting his sword away, Yukes says that the scoundrel is always running away. Now the girl understands why he gave her the sword for a while. She decides to get straight to the point and asks why they brought her here. The captain's assistant turns to her and says that everything that is said from now on must remain secret. Scylla points out that now no one would believe her anyway, even if she wanted to tell. But despite this, if even a word leaks out, she will be in trouble. This matter begins to interest her. The captain's assistant tells what's going on and says that the Dark Lord, who cursed the Crown Prince, is connected with the Aferio family. Simply put, the likelihood of the Count's involvement in the assassination attempt is very high. The heroine is shocked by this news and begins to think that this is really possible. On the other hand, this is just a guess. The Count intended to kill the Crown Prince through a contract with the Dark Lord, but it is not an easy contract for a nobleman to be obliged to sacrifice his children. Sighing, Scylla asks why she is here then. They answer her that they wanted to make sure of something. The assistant says that of the entire Aferio clan, the most suitable victim for the contract is Lady Aferio. If she became a victim to the Dark Lord, she should have gained some kind of magical protection, so to test whether this was true, they had to play rough. But they did not expect that she had holy power, and therefore she was not the victim. However, she considers herself a victim, or rather her body, yes, but her soul, no. He was told that she skillfully controlled holy power. Scylla says that in the past she dated Sir Roel, the captain of the paladins. She adds that she always dreamed of going into church service. In her thoughts, she says that only clergymen know how to use holy power, and only they can be granted it. She tells them that they probably also know. The situation in her family is not the calmest, so he taught her some self-defense techniques. She tries to play the role of the upset person and talks about how he even said that he would help her join the ranks of the paladins when he returned, shouting, "Sir Roel!" Scylla thinks that no one will die from a little lie. Well, she is both Scylla and Roel, so she can just imagine that she said this to herself. Yukes says that in any case, she can use holy power and therefore cannot be connected with the Dark Lord in any way. Scylla agrees with this and thinks to herself that she is actually related to him. It's just that the last time they saw each other, she almost killed him. The captain's assistant asks her if he can then ask to become a spy in the Count's house. They already have one, but if it's a family member, even if unprepared, it's better for them. Scylla asks if she can find out who is already a spy for them in the house. However, he replies that it is a secret. She says to herself that they don't trust her yet, but the idea of being a spy sounds good. But if they find out that the victim is still her, then there will be no problems. Those who enter into a contract with the Dark Lord are demons, and those who are sacrificed are sentenced to death or exile. But if she meets a high priestess who can see souls, she might be accepted as Roel, not Scylla. One thought comes to her, and she says that she is ready to become their spy, but with one condition. She asks Yukes, who visits the Supreme One monthly to receive blessings, to take her when he goes to see her. The captain tries to answer, "Okay," but his assistant covers his mouth with his hands and says to wait, because you can't take just anyone to the priestess. Scylla thinks that since just anyone is not allowed, then she has one way out. And then she turns to Yukes with a smile and invites him to get married. Because of the shocking faces of Yukes and his assistant, Scylla decides that marriage is too much, so she decides to ask about the engagement. After all, her fiancé has died anyway. Being her fiancé, they will quite rightly be able to get involved in the intrigues of her family. She is the only heiress of the Aferio clan, which means that the captain will become the next head of the clan. The assistant says that her husband has just passed away. The appearance of a new one in such a short period of time will tarnish her reputation. Scylla says that she doesn't care. The main thing for her is to get to church, except that it is impossible for Yukes. They answer her that not at all. He doesn't have a fiancé. Then she invites him to get engaged. She wants to meet the priestess by the end of this month. The assistant asks Yukes what he thinks about this, and adds that, in fact, this is a good decision. although a scandal cannot be avoided, but if they have no other choice, they will eliminate the Count, making the captain the new head of the family. The captain doesn't mind the idea, and Scylla shakes his hand. She turns to the assistant, to which he replies that he has a name. His name is Orson Furson. Hearing this name, the girl shudders and asks him if he is the demon of Sicarius. He replies that this is in the past, but Scylla says that he was sentenced to death. Orson replies that fortunately, thanks to His Majesty's generosity, he was pardoned, but he has no right to leave the squad headquarters, so this can be considered a life sentence. The heroine is shocked by this news and thinks how strange this Special Forces detachment is, and says that the unrest in Sicarius took place several decades ago. Scylla tells Orson that he is perfectly preserved, and he in turn says that everyone is telling him that. Still, she thinks this is hardly normal after all. They are in the palace. He asks if the heroine scared her. She is surprised by this question and becomes angry, losing control of her powers, which makes Furson flinch. Scylla points out that if he knew who she was, he wouldn't even turn his tongue, so to speak, and his ignorance infuriates her. She notices that she has lost control of herself and calms down and says that the truth is not afraid of anything. The assistant says he has no doubts after they watched her chase Crown. Just to start, she should take a bath and then change into fresh clothes. Since she is now the captain's fiancée, she cannot disgrace him. While taking a bath, Scylla remarks that it is very nice here. Although at first Orson tried to drag her into a private bathroom when she demanded a larger bath, he instantly agreed. She is not surprised, because this is a detachment directly tied to the royal family. The poor people of the Holy Church cannot compete with them. Remembering her past life, she begins to doubt again. Even if she and Captain Yukas meet with the Supreme, she does not have to become a paladin again, and if everything goes according to plan, then the entire fortune of the Aferio family will become hers. The heroine also wants to live in luxury, buy delicacies, and that's all for now. She has no idea what else she can spend money on. She also thinks that she can build her own farm and start her own business. Coming out of the bath, Scylla thinks that, probably, those who know how to handle it in principle know how to spend money correctly. Still, she decides to think about it some more. She notices herself in the mirror and begins to look at Scylla's body, noticing her thin body, delicate skin, not a single flaw. It is still beautiful, but too weak. Thin arms, soft palms. Because of this, she does not understand how, with such a body, she will be able to return to service. Scylla wipes her head after taking a shower in the room assigned to her. Captain Yukas comes to her with a plate of pudding. The girl thanks him for allowing her to swim in the large bathtub. She asks the captain where Orson is. He replies that he went to get new clothes for her. The lady saw the pudding in the commander's hands and thought that he had brought it to her. She loves puddings very much, but churchmen rarely got such sweets. However, the captain of the Special Forces squad sat down and began to eat it himself. Scylla can't believe that the commander actually eats pudding, and even if so, he could at least offer it to her. The girl gets up and heads towards Yukas. With great enthusiasm, she tells him that she wants him too, and asks him to give her pudding. Having shared a spoonful of pudding with her, the heroine enthusiastically enjoys this delicious piece of dessert. The captain says their cook is very talented. The lady asks, scooping some more caramel. They begin to take turns eating the pudding with great pleasure. But then Orson comes into their room with new clothes and asks them what they are doing. They answer that they are just eating pudding together. The assistant says he sees it, but asks why they eat it with one spoon. On the foreheads of Yukas and Scylla is written, "What's the difference?" Furson decides to give up and tells the heroine that he brought her clothes and asks her to change quickly, and reminds her, just in case, that she should change clothes in another place. Having changed into a beautiful yellow dress, the heroes talk about the engagement ceremony. Orson says that this chance cannot be missed. If she goes to the Aferio estate, they will be able to find the Count's accomplices. Scylla asks him again about his accomplices, to which he replies that she does not think that the Count was able to do everything alone. She begins to think that indeed, she heard that the Countess's family is very influential, so they could also participate in this. The assistant asks the heroine not to stay so aloof with them. After all, she is the captain's fiancée. The lady understands this and changes her mood, which even surprised Orson at such speed. Kalidos as an engagement gift, but is immediately interrupted by Furson and says no way. Then she asks to provide her with some kind of weapon for self-defense. She is sure that her stepmother may well send someone after her soul at night. Especially after she was found not guilty, the likelihood that she would do something risky is very high. Orson says they can go to the armory and choose in person and asks Yushes to take her there. But he also adds that the captain will have to be escorted not only to the armory, but then also home, which the captain is not very happy about. The assistant also says that after the commander returns, he will teach him a couple of lessons in how to treat his bride and other useful things. Following the captain, Scylla is not even able to catch up with him, because Orson brought her uncomfortable shoes that hurt and make it impossible to walk quickly. She bumps into Yukis's back. He turns to face her and asks if he will carry her. The heroine replies that there is no need and asks just to go slower, but she thinks that before she could not agree. But now she is a noblewoman, and he is her fiancé. Still, she asks to take her in his arms, which the captain does. Surprised, Scylla says that this is actually great. Scylla remembers that in the past, she carried corseted ladies in her arms, or battle comrades who were unable to fight anymore countless times. But this is the first time she is carried. The girl falls asleep, but soon Yuches wakes her up and asks her to choose a weapon. Jumping from his arms, she is surprised at how many weapons there are here. Lighting up, she points to various weapons with a desire to take them. Holding many weapons in her hands, she asks the captain if she can take anything. He replies that she can take whatever she wants. Afterwards, she realizes that she has collected too many weapons. With pity, she says that then she will only take what she can hide. She also decides to ask Yuches if he can lend her a horse, and he answers that he can. While petting the horse that her fiancé lent her, Roel remembers that if her previous horse, Snowball, found out that she would be riding another, she would be angry. She thanks Yuches and asks if his horse is here. The captain also comes with his horse. Scylla says he is very handsome and asks his name. The captain replies that his horse's name is Blackie, after which Lady Eferio stands in a stupor. The heroine assumes that Orson cursed for a long time when he decided to call him that. The commander asks how she guessed, and Roel remembers how it was the same for her. Scylla says that she also thinks that Blackie is a good name, to which Yuches agrees. Returning home, Sophia meets her mistress and asks how she is. The heroine replies that everything is fine. All charges against her were dropped. The maid says that she is very happy, and she was very worried about her. Scylla tells her servant that she has a new fiancé, from which Sophia's facial expression immediately changes. She asks that the countess has again found her a suspicious guy, to which the heroine replies that no, she chose him herself. The servant calms down and asks who her new fiancé is, but when he hears the name Yukis Lidera, her face changes again. She asks if this is the captain of the squad that recruits inveterate criminals. The lady replies that there may indeed be criminals in this detachment, but this does not mean that it consists only of them, and that Captain Yukis is a wonderful person. She says that she saw him eating pudding and said that she wanted it too, and he immediately shared it with her. Even after this, Sophia considers him strange and does not understand, because how could he allow him to eat the same pudding that he ate himself? Scylla doesn't understand why it's so bad. Since he tried it, it means the pudding is edible. The maid explains that giving someone something to eat that you have already eaten is very rude. The lady also says that he gave her a dress, shoes, a necklace, and a bracelet. The maid cautiously asks if this is also already worn, and the heroine thinks yes. This causes her servant to fall into a stupor and shout, "Mistress!" Sophia gets upset and turns to the goddess why her mistress is not the least bit lucky in life. Scylla replies that at least Yuches is better than her last fiancé. The servant agrees and says that she heard that the captain of the Special Forces Squad is the strongest knight in the kingdom. The heroine replies that the commander of the paladins is also very strong, but it is still unknown who is stronger because Roel has not yet fought him. The maid advises the mistress to pull herself together. Previously, her behavior was permissible, but now she is the bride of the captain of the Special Forces Squad. Sophia decides to teach her the basics of etiquette before the engagement. The maid assures that there is no need to be afraid. She has been serving her for a long time, so she knows what and how. In the evening, Scylla goes to her stepmother. Rising to her chambers, she notices that the place here is luxurious and strikingly different from the old building of the estate in which she lives. If the plan succeeds, then all this will be hers, and after many years of life full of hardships, she will finally be able to live in luxury. The stepmother meets her daughter and says that first of all, she congratulates her on her acquittal in court. Scylla says that if she had even a drop of trust in her, she would think that she was really happy. Her mother assures that this is true, and in the end she returned safe and sound. The heroine says that this must be why, for my safety, she sent people to her prison. The stepmother says that any mother in her place would have done the same, and notes that she may not thank her. Scylla says that if she has anything else to say, she should say it quickly. The Countess said that there was nothing else like that. Her fiancé died a terrible death, so she had already found several more candidates for her grooms. The lady, drinking tea, says that there was no need to do this. But still the mother insists on this because she is no longer a little girl and she should settle down as soon as possible. Scylla interrupts her and says that she already has a fiancé. The Countess clutched her outfit at this news. The heroine says that she met her soulmate. Thanks to her, because it was according to Yukis's testimony later she was saved. The stepmother realizes that her daughter is engaged to the captain. Scylla points out that she is definitely unhappy. After all, the person who became her fiancé is investigating her. Her mother asks if she was in a hurry with this. Yukis does not have a very good reputation, and she should think twice about it. However, the lady replies that she considers him a wonderful person and wants to perform their ceremony as soon as possible. Scylla says that they should follow the customs and first need to meet with the count, then once he gives his blessing, choose the wedding date. Roll reflects that this girl's body was unconscious for a week. Then she was almost raped and then accused of murder. So much happened, but the count never showed up, even for consolation. The heroine asks if her father is really interested in her marriage. The stepmother replies that of course he is interested. She will discuss the appropriate time with him. Scylla then asks her to hurry up, because Captain Yukis is not one of the patient ones. The countess responds to this request, but asks to meet those she has selected, saying that among them there are several attractive ones. The lady says that she is not interested in appearance, noticing to himself that you couldn't find anyone more beautiful than her. Every day she saw the most beautiful creature in the mirror, so there was no way to take her appearance. The countess says that she hoped that, for the sake of their family, she would at least hold a banquet. Scylla thinks that this is a good chance, but she is ready to take it only if her stepmother invites the captain there. Mother promises that she will send an invitation to Yukis later and tell her that the banquet will be held in 3 days, so she needs to prepare properly. Scylla takes this into account and leaves, slamming the door. Returning to her place, Scylla tells everything to Sophia, and she is horrified to hear that the banquet will be in 3 days. She worries that 3 days is too little because the lady doesn't even know how the banquets are held. The heroine says that she actually remembers something. Smile, be friendly, and just dance. Roll says that she was a frequent guest at banquets. Every banquet she bathed in the lady's adoration, so she is familiar with banquets. Sophia is still wary and asks if she remembers how to dance. Grabbing the maid, Scylla replies that of course she remembers and begins to dance with her. The servant is embarrassedly surprised, but changes her expression and asks the mistress that she just danced the male part. The maid says it turned out well, but why does Miss Aferio only remember the male one? In her thoughts, Roll explains that previously she only danced the male part. Despondent, she asks herself how she can relearn in 3 days. But Sophia calms her down and says that even if she has to forget about sleep, she will help her learn to dance. She also notes that some other formalities should not be overlooked. Afterwards, Scylla spent the whole night learning how to dance with the maid. In the morning, another servant comes to the mistress and asks to go to the countess. The girl refuses because she only slept 3 hours all night while rehearsing. She asks what her stepmother needs from her, and if it is something important, let her go to her. The servant turns to Miss Aferio and asks her what kind of behavior she is doing and notes that she is the one who must go to her. Scylla asks what will happen if she refuses, let alone forcefully drag her away. The servant assures her that she will have to if she does not stop behaving like this and asks not to keep the countess waiting. The heroine thinks that even though she is just a servant, she is too arrogant. And although she wants to end everything as quickly as possible, she is a little worried about Sophia. Before there was a commotion, she would need to get her out of here. When Roll confirms her identity, it will be possible to hide her in the church. But for now, we need to wait. Scylla asks the servant to come closer to her and takes her hair. Afterwards, she says that she will go to her, but the servant needs to know that for her, killing a rat hiding behind a fox is like snapping her fingers. So she advises reducing your arrogance. The heroine comes to the countess, and she asks her to sit down. The mistress asks what she needs, which is why all the servants standing nearby begin to scorch the girl with their gaze. The stepmother notices that her daughter has been very efficient lately, to which Scylla replies that she was twice on the verge of death, so she learned to appreciate every second of the time allotted to her. But Mother says that she still shouldn't repay all the anger towards her. The mistress says that she sincerely admires her steadfastness. She finds it truly amazing. Then she asks to tell her what she wanted from her. The countess says that she just wanted to see her daughter. This makes Scylla angry and asks what it means she just like that called her here, like some trained dog. The heroine says that even if she seems frail, this does not mean that she has nothing to answer. Another servant of the Countess intrudes into this squabble and tells the lady that she is too rude. Miss Eferio asks the servant if she will spank her for this, to which she replies that this is not what she meant, and Scylla orders her to shut up, which causes her to scream that this is too much. The mistress says that since this is too much, then let her come and try to hit me. She also turns to her stepmother and asks if she can whip this ill-mannered servant. The Countess asks for mercy and assures that he will teach her reason. Pronouncing the name of the servant, Zerlin, she apologizes and admits that she was wrong. After this, the stepmother asks her daughter with a smile if she is satisfied. Knocking on the table, Scylla says that since that's all, she's leaving. But then the stepmother decides to tell him that she has already informed the Count about her daughter's engagement, which makes him not very happy about her choice. The heroine asks if he approved of the engagement, to which the Countess replies that he did not say so directly, but believes that he is strongly opposed. The mother of her daughter is the heiress of the Eferio family. She shouldn't choose a groom so carelessly. The lady asks that based on this, the Viscount was suitable for her, to which the mother replies that at least he had a clean reputation. Roll simply laughs at this, noting that the Countess is afraid that they will lose their position. She says that Euchus was chosen by the Emperor himself, and his patron is General Herva. If he marries her, he will easily take the place of the head. The girl says that if the problem is only a matter of reputation, she will find a guarantor. She silently said that once she confirmed her identity, finding a guarantor would not be difficult. As a paladin, she has many connections. The Countess, shouting, replies that a simple guarantee will not help here, because the captain is not a citizen of the kingdom, and they do not know what his origin is, and therefore cannot allow him to enter them so easily. Scylla notes to herself that this is a lousy excuse, because Eferio is not some kind of royal family. Mother says that this is for her own good. If she marries a man of unknown origin, in the future she will regret saying, "Believe me." The heroine says that this is already her problem, and she herself will deal with the consequences. A servant comes running to them and reports to the Countess that Captain Euchus has arrived, and he wants to see the young lady. Clinking her cup, the stepmother orders to find an excuse to send him out. The servant asks, "But how is this possible?" To which she replies that the height of rudeness is to arrive without prior notice. The Countess asks her daughter if she would like to see what is happening, but she calmly drinks tea and says that there is nothing to see. Adding to himself that this is not a battlefield, it won't be difficult for him to get here. After loud screams, the guards tell the Countess to quickly leave here. They will not be able to stop him. Noticing this, Scylla says that he went too far with the campaign. It doesn't seem like it's a war, but it feels like it. The stepmother gets up from her place and, shouting, asks the guards where the captain is and orders him to be sent to her immediately. The guards say that the captain was knocked out by Sir Euchus. Continuing to drink tea, Scylla thinks that the guards will not be able to stop him, only she could compete with him. Trembling, the Countess asks if he hurt or killed anyone, to which they answer that Sir Euchus only knocked them out without hurting anyone. Knocking on the table, she orders the guards to fight for life and death. She is ready to pay compensation to the wounded, and to the killed, she will give their families part of their lands. Because of these words, the heroine jumps up and thinks that she should intervene since her mother is persuading the guards to bloodshed. Captain Euchus has already approached very close, and the guards are screaming at the top of their lungs for the Countess to leave here as soon as possible. She turns to the captain and asks if he is too arrogant, daring to break in, and how he dares to neglect their family. Staggering, the captain replies that he simply came to pick up Lady Eferio. Worried that Sir Euchus looks exhausted, she heads towards him. Standing next to him, she sees the bruises under the captain's eyes, and she assumes that he went through the same torture as her. Orson is definitely stricter than Sophia, but he still came for her, even in this state, running away to her. Scylla understands his motives. The assistant commander would let him leave just to meet me. The Countess shouts that if Sir Euchus really loves her daughter, he will not dare. He had to warn them about his visit at least 24 hours in advance. The heroine takes everything into her own hands and tells her that in fact they agreed to meet today. She just forgot to warn her about it. And taking her fiancé's hand, she says goodbye to her mother and leaves. Scylla and Sir Euchus decided to stop by for a bite to eat. The girl ordered ice cream and decided to ask the captain how he looked, but he lies head down at the table from fatigue, which is why the lady asks if Orson tortured him. She strokes his head and asks why he is tormented like that. If he can't stand it, he can just say, "No." Yukes looks up at Miss Aferio and explains that he doesn't want to let her down. Orson said that if he behaved as usual, he would get her into trouble. The heroine asks not to worry about it, he just needs to keep up appearances. The captain says that he was warned that this is exactly what she would say, but they asked him not to believe her because these are just consolations, and that even if Lady Aferio sees nothing wrong in his behavior, it could have a detrimental effect on her reputation. So Orson demanded that he mind his manners. "Yukesu about this," he answered 23 times. She thinks that he would not have had to get engaged to her if it were not for her desire to meet the priestess, and now she is ashamed of him for all his torment. The heroine asks when he plans to return to the squad. Yukis says that the later the better, and then she suggests they take a nap after they finish eating, and she also promises not to sleep too long. Scylla decides to help the captain and feeds him ice cream. Orson also said that it is indecent for two people to eat from the same spoon, but she calms him down and takes out another spoon. Riding on a horse with Yuches, the heroine thinks that even if she really wants to sleep, she still cannot return to the Aferio estate, and the captain does not have his own house, even more so. So they have no other options but to go to the hotel, which is what she offers him. After looking at several hotels, Scylla notices the one she would like to stay at and asks the commander to head there as soon as possible. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a member of the Special Forces unit runs out. Yukes addresses him as Crown, and the heroine, in turn, calls him Little Rat. He asks them why they are heading to hotels in broad daylight, but they answer him that they are going to sleep there. At first he is surprised by this, and then he realizes that they are really just going to sleep. But he notices that normal people will decide that they have come to do other things. Scylla understands what Crown is talking about and expresses himself uncivilly, which makes him say that it is not permissible for a lady to talk like that. The lady is surprised by this because she didn't think that he cared about decency. Miss Aferio comes up with the idea that then if people think that they were engaged in obscenity, then definitely no one will be able to interfere with their wedding. Yukes rejects such an idea. Crown says that the commander still has some grains of common sense left and asks Scylla to stop creating even more problems. He shouts at Yukes, saying what did he expect when he broke into the Aferio estate? Of course her family will be furious. He also says that the captain might feel sorry for him, since it's already difficult for him to look after him. The lady says that she's honestly tired and suggests they just go in separately. Little Rat sighs and says that if they have nowhere to go, they can come to him. He still has enough free rooms. The heroes come to a shopping district, so Scylla decides to ask Crown if he is a merchant. He replies that he does not trade directly, but is closely connected with traders. The heroine argues that trade associations come to the capital from the east and annually donate a large amount of money to the Holy Church. Because of this, Roll realizes that he is the only one who donates money. She says that members of the Special Forces team have connections with high-ranking members of trade associations around the world. But it seemed to her that the captain, appointed by the emperor himself, should be an influential figure. But still, she thinks that since Crown is a member of the trade association, then why did he join the squad? This could have a detrimental effect on his reputation. Her thoughts are interrupted by Crown. The girl comes to her senses and sees that Yukes is not nearby, to which his squad member says that he went to the bathroom and asks if he can talk to her. Little Rat asks Scylla why she needs a commander. He says that he heard about their engagement and knows that it was she who proposed it. The heroine remembers the old days and tells him that he is right. But this is just a calculation, so he needs to calm down. Gritting his teeth, he says that even if she can use holy power, the girl from the Aferio family cannot be trusted. The lady says that Yukes does not trust her at all, which is why she does not say who the spy is in the Count's house. She also says that even if they really get married, it doesn't concern him. Scylla bursts into the bathroom and screams at Captain Yukes that his subordinate is bullying her. In turn, he denies this and says that the commander is washing, so where is she going to go? Crown tries to stop her, saying that the commander should be completely naked right now, but the heroine replies that she hasn't seen anything like that, so she shouldn't be shocked by this. Since everything has turned out this way, he asks Scylla to take responsibility. She asks why, he replies. Since she managed to take possession of the commander, then let her take responsibility. Yukes appears behind the heroine and asks what is happening here. The lady says that this guy claims that she somehow managed to abuse litter. He replies that this is a lie, and then Crown, whining, says that he is leaving and they can sleep in the same room. Arriving at the room reserved for them, Scylla asks Yukes what's wrong with this guy. to which he replies that he doesn't know. Roll thinks that since they were given one room, she cannot put on a shirt, but a dream is a dream, whether in a dress or in a shirt. She also didn't like how Crown received them as a guest and asks what Captain Yuka's will sleep in. He begins to take off his clothes, and Scylla notices many scars on his body. She says in her thoughts that she was told that the Emperor accepted him at the age of 20. There are definitely qualified healers in the Special Forces squad, but for some reason his body is covered in scars. This means that he received them when he was very young. She asks him who did this. He replies that he cannot say. He was forbidden to talk about his past. Scylla swears on the name of the goddess that she will keep this a secret. Yuka is surprised that Scylla is ready to swear in the name of the goddess, because when a cleric breaks an oath given in the name of the goddess, he immediately loses God's blessing, in other words, holy power. Although she is not serving in the church yet, she will start soon, so he can trust her. But it's still risky for her to take an oath, because the general is categorically against this, but she simply won't tell anyone about it. Yuka says that this could harm her, but she assures that everything is fine. Even if they were forced into the same harness, it's not so bad. Thanks to mutual trust, they may not be afraid that their plans will be interfered with. The captain says that the point is not that he doesn't believe her, but without finishing, Scylla interrupts him and says that then everything is fine. He believes her, and she believes him. The heroine makes an oath speech and now asks the commander if he will tell her about his past. He says that this is the work of a demonic clan. Scylla assumes that he was sacrificed, and he confirms her guesses. Long ago, the goddess drove demons far into the northern lands, protecting people from them by the sands of the Black Desert. So people almost stopped communicating with demons. To communicate with the demonic clan, children are often used as victims. Yuka says this happened immediately after he was born. Scylla says that since it concerns the demon clan, she understands why it is kept a secret. It's really better for him not to tell anyone about his past. She wonders how he can be here if he was sacrificed to a demonic clan, because such a thing is impossible unless he managed to pass through the Black Desert. The captain confirms this, and Scylla notes that surviving in the demonic lands is already impressive, but also crossing the desert. Even the past one with her sacred power would hardly be able to. She says in her thoughts that no matter who you are, if you participated in making a deal with a demon, you will be sent into exile, because in most cases, the deal tightly ties a person with a demon. Scylla asks if the church knows about this. Yuka says that he himself killed the demon to whom he was sacrificed, so that the church accepted him. After hearing this, the lady reaches out to the captain and hugs him and says that he is her hero and how much she admires him. Scylla wakes up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. She says that she wanted to leave yesterday. And he notes that despite all the rumors around the commander, he is a sweetheart when he sleeps. Stroking him, she decides to sleep a little more. Crown knocks on their door and asks if they woke up in order to find out whether to order his servants to prepare breakfast, and sees the two of them in an embrace. Yuka's subordinate says that there is news for the Special Forces squad, and they both need to come, and that he has already prepared a change of clothes. Scylla asks if he also prepared clothes for her, to which Crown says that he will not let the captain's bride in like this. Judging by this, she has found a way to get new clothes. She just needs to go to the Special Forces unit. The heroes come to the headquarters of the Special Forces squad, and Orzin says that they received a complaint from the Aferio house in connection with what happened. Scylla does not find this a threat, and says that yesterday she and the captain planned to meet, but the guards blocked his way, so she believes that they ran into themselves. However, the assistant commander explains that even if this is the case, problems are guaranteed for the heroine. She replies that even without this testimony, she is sure that the Countess will lecture her and that she will again think bad things about her. Fersen says it might then be dangerous for her to return home. But the lady does not agree with this, and Yuches also confirms that Lady Aferio can cope. Orzin accepts her opinion, but says that he called them for another reason and indicates an invitation to Aferio's house, where the reception will take place. Scylla notes that Yukas will have a hard time, and Crown joins her opinion. The assistant says that the reception at Aferio's house is interesting, but on the same day, they need to attend another reception. In 2 days, Yukas's bride Ladera is to be officially presented at a reception hosted by Princess Alanya. The heroine remembers this princess and speaks not very well of her and asks if she cannot go there. They answer her that it is impossible, and they don't even have a choice. Orzin says that the captain needs to return to his etiquette lesson, and my lady needs to quickly return home and convey this news to the Countess. She will be accompanied by Crown. After leaving the squad headquarters, Scylla noticed that the commander looked very scared and in his thoughts asked to forgive her. Despite what they both suffered, in general, she believes that all the blame is on her. When they inherit the Count's fortune, she plans to buy something tasty in gratitude to the captain. Crown turns to the lady and says that she talks everywhere about their engagement, but something tells him that they are both bluffing. Scylla says in her thoughts that he chose a bad time for such a conversation and tells him that this is an engagement and really not real. He asks the lady that in her situation, it will be beneficial for her to remain married. After all, if the Aferio family is found guilty, then she will be deprived of her title. Of course she wants to go to church, but she is a woman, and it would be more profitable to remain a wife. Crown adds that if they fail to get rid of Mrs. Aferio, it would be suicide for her to stay in this house. Therefore, she still cannot find a better party than the captain. It is even more likely that the Countess will find a new groom who will be her pawn. Having learned that Scylla may not get the inheritance, she begins to worry about moving some of the property somewhere, but is afraid that it may be confiscated. She mentions the goddess and says that she leaves her no choice but to return to the church. Crown doesn't like that she's ignoring him, but says that overall she's a winner as long as she doesn't get divorced. He also says that she can lie as much as she wants that their marriage is a fake, but he knows that deep down she doesn't think so. Scylla shouts that even if this is so, Captain Eucas himself will definitely not agree. However, the thought occurs to her that he might agree. Crown says he had to go through a difficult path. Outwardly, he seems harmless, but he has excellent instincts. The heroine notices that he knows the captain very well, to which he replies that the commander grew up under his supervision. The girl does not understand how this can be, because the commander spent his entire childhood in the lands of demons. She asks him if he really looked after him and took care of him. He replies that he looks young, but in fact is older than Eucas. Scylla thinks that the problem is not his age, but that if he was with the captain in the demonic territory, then he is either a demon himself or was also sacrificed. But since he is older than him, perhaps Crown is from the demonic clan. Scylla is horrified by such news, and Crown decides to ask her what's wrong. She cannot answer this question for him because she has sworn to the goddess not to talk about the captain's past. She decides to ask about this when she meets the goddess, because she knows about Yusha's past and should know this guy too. The lady asks Crown about what the commander was like as a child, but he advises asking the master about it personally. The girl explains that she is interested in his opinion, and few people remember their childhood. But he still insists that Eucas tell the story himself first. Scylla returns home and is greeted by a servant she has never seen before. He says that the countess ordered it to be conveyed that the lady was punished for frivolous behavior and that she was under house arrest. She shows him the invitation and says that the arrest is cancelled. Alanya invited her to the reception. Aferio also says that the reception will take place in 2 days, so she needs to get ready and go buy a dress. The servant reminds that the countess's reception will take place in 2 days, but Scylla replies that she cannot refuse the princess, because then the honor of the family will suffer. The lady says that refusal is possible only in the case of the funeral of one of the parents, and he asks the servant to tell his stepmother that if she wants to see her at the reception, she needs to deal with the princess. 2 days later, that day came. The heroine did not think that she could survive this training. According to her, Sophia is simply terrible. After 2 days of torture, which lasted for her like a month, it already seems to her that the countess's recent act was sweet in its own way. Before this, she met with her stepmother, where they discussed welcoming the princess. Scylla said that she herself was not happy about it, but Her Highness herself invited her. The girl says that with such an attitude towards this, she insults the princess herself. The countess asks not to exaggerate. She is simply afraid that her daughter will disgrace herself and cause trouble at the reception. She also notices that the lady used to be a wonderful child, but the one she is talking about no longer exists. Miss Aferio is about to leave, but the stepmother asks her daughter if she is getting sleepy. She replies that not a bit. Scylla asks if her mother mixed something in. She tells her that she can understand everything, what is too much, and she is just taking care of her. But even if it was true, the sleeping pills don't work because of the holy power. The lady advises her to refrain from risky undertakings, because if something happens, the Special Forces Squad will not turn a blind eye to it. The mother shudders and asks her if she really wants to give them a reason to search the estate. Scylla hopes that next time, the countess will come up with something better. Returning to the present, the heroine says that she has been very tired over the past days, but now all she has to do is get there. Barely trying not to fall asleep, Scylla notices that she has been driving for a long time and sees that the road along which she is being taken definitely does not lead to the detachment. The heroine realizes that these are again the hands of her stepmother, and now it is clear to her why she has not been seen lately. She checks the door handle of the carriage and finds that it is locked from the outside, and now there is no doubt left. Since it is forbidden to bring weapons to royal receptions, she kept wondering whether it was worth doing this, but finding herself in such a situation, she does not regret that she did so and captured the blade. With his help, she opens the door and climbs onto the roof of the carriage. Having assessed the coachman, she goes down to him and says that she will not ask him anything, so she orders him to shut up, putting the blade to his throat. She orders him to lead her to the Special Forces squad, and if he so much as moves, she will kill him. The heroine arrives at the detachment and is met by Captain Yukes. She kicks the coachman and greets the groom. She asks for his forgiveness, and Orzin asks Scylla if she was kidnapped. After thinking a little, she answers positively. The assistant commander also says that the Count's servant claimed that the lady refused the invitation, so they argued about whether it was necessary to break through to her estate. Yukes offers his hand to the mistress and asks if she is safe. Because of what the heroine praises his gallantry and is surprised at this is probably the work of Sir Fersen. Master is sorry that she had to go through all this. Taking his hand, Scylla tells him that it's nothing. Orzin immediately notices that there is little time left and he needs to hurry. Approaching the gate, the guard meets the couple and says that the captain of the Yusha's detachment litter has arrived and asks the lady to introduce herself. Iferio's eldest daughter tells the guard her name. The heroine was lucky that she didn't need an invitation to enter the palace because the coachman took it from her and threw it away. The security says that someone under her name has already passed through, which makes Scylla shocked. It turns out that the coachman did not just tear up the invitation, but gave it to someone. Scylla asks if she can inquire who entered the palace. The guard replies that it was Lady Rowena Iferio. It turns out that they sent her younger sister instead of the Count's eldest daughter. The heroine says that there was a misunderstanding and notes that it was she who came with Captain Yukes. The guard agrees with the girl and asks the captain if he doesn't mind going with this lady, and of course he doesn't mind. After going inside, Scylla thinks about her 17-year-old sister, who stole her sister's outfits that she doesn't even wear. The Special Forces commander says he is worried about the lady, but she assures that there is no need because she is not so weak. But precisely because of this, the gentleman is only more worried, because her family may resort to radical methods. She agrees with him. Even the guards of the estate are completely weaklings and they will not help. She is touched by the fact that he is worried about her and notices that he is now walking at her speed and not like before. Scylla takes the captain's hand and leads him to the palace balcony. She stands on the balustrade and begins to stroke Yukes' head. They look at each other, and the heroine asks that if he doesn't like it, he can just say it. The captain likes that she strokes his head, and then the mistress decides to stroke him a little more. Another couple comes to them, and they, seeing the heroes, apologize for disturbing them. Scylla forgot that there are people here and invites Sir Litter to go somewhere else, and they leave. Returning back to the palace, they are met by Countess Cannelle. She says that Sir Fersen asked her to help Miss Iferio and Captain Yukes. The Countess says that at this reception, the heroes will show their relationship to high society for the first time, and therefore they need to be together all the time. She also asks to follow her. She will take them to the princess. When Scylla comes to her highness, she becomes very worried because she scolded her 3 times in the past. The heroine did not expect that they would meet again, even in such conditions. Yukes notices that something is wrong with her and asks what happened. The lady replies that she is just a little worried. Suddenly, the shocking cry of the younger Iferio's sister is heard in surprise that her older sister is here. Scylla immediately saw this girl as her little sister. She tells her that she was mistaken, and she never said that she would not come. Countess Cannelle tells young Iferio to freeze immediately, because blocking someone's path to her highness is disrespectful on her part. Rowena bows and asks for forgiveness, but she turns her gaze to her older sister and looks at her clearly embittered. The Countess says that since nothing else is in the way, she asks to greet the princess. Captain Yukes is the first to greet her highness. The princess is grateful that the commander accepted the invitation. She also says that His Majesty would be glad if he went out into the world at least occasionally. The gentleman doesn't know how he should respond to this kindness, and then Scylla decides to introduce herself. After the heroine's words towards the princess, she is asked to raise her head, and Miss Iferio nervously raises it. Alanya asks the eldest daughter of the Iferio family how it happened that Lady Rowena also came here, because she definitely invited only her. Rowena butts into the conversation and says that her sister couldn't make it to the appointment, so she went instead. Her Highness wants Lady Scylla Etherio to explain herself. The heroine would not like to tarnish the reputation of her family in front of people, but unfortunately, she says that her younger sister suffers from kleptomania. The younger Etherio shouts that this is all nonsense, and she is lying, to which the princess asks to shut up right now. Lady Rowana has intervened 3 times already, and she is giving her one last chance. Scylla continues to explain that her little sister often steals other people's clothes and jewelry, and this time she stole the invitation. The lady hoped to hide it for the good of the family. Also, the necklace on the sister's neck is a confirmation of her words. Her father gave this necklace to her mother. It is very expensive and luxurious, plus her mother bequeathed it to her mistress, and it was kept until her sister stole it. From this news, people around began to whisper and discuss Lady Rowana. The princess turns to her and asks her to answer whether her older sister's words are true. The younger Etherio, trembling, begins to deny all the words spoken in her direction, explaining that her older sister is jealous of her because she is not loved at home. Alania asks why someone would give their half-sister an inheritance from their own mother. Besides, Rowana herself just said that she doesn't get along with her sister. Her Highness asks for the last time if the younger Etherio has anything to say in her defense, to which she asks for forgiveness and says that she needs to take her leave. After these words, the princess orders her to be captured. Having grabbed the culprit, she asks for forgiveness from Highness, but she says that she needs to apologize not only to her, but also to Scylla Etherio. Rowana says that she will never apologize, that why should she apologize to someone like... Without finishing speaking, Princess Alania hits the mistress's younger sister in the face. After hitting Rowana, the princess says that as the hostess of the evening, she is obliged to protect her guests, so she apologizes for this. But she also won't tolerate Scylla's further insults from the uninvited guest. Her Majesty repeats once again that the youngest Etherio should not apologize to her. After her words, the younger sister asks for forgiveness from the lady. Out of awkwardness, the heroine only asks her not to do this again. Don't forget that she is not the real Scylla, and therefore is not offended. The princess approaches the girl from behind and takes the stolen necklace. And he says that they will write to the countess about what happened and orders the culprit to be escorted. The servants assure that this is not necessary. They were notified that the countess was coming here. Her Majesty is pleased with this outcome, but she still asks that the letter be prepared. Alania turns to the heroine, which makes her flinch. And because of this, the princess thinks that Miss Etherio considers her scary. She replies that this is not so. She asks the mistress to come out to her, but Yukis says that since everything has been resolved, he asks to give her a rest. The princess does not understand what she did to Scylla and gives the necklace into the hands of the captain, and as the hostess of the evening, asks for forgiveness for the inconvenience caused. She assumes that the mistress will not be able to relax until she leaves, and before leaving, she asks her to try to have a lot of fun with the mistress. Yukis asks the frightened Miss Etherio if she is okay. She replies that everything is fine and notes that the captain interfered with the princess, noticing her discomfort and calls him good. Countess Camille claps and says how tense the situation was, but they were able to clearly demonstrate their relationship to everyone. Thus, they completed their mission, and they also managed to compromise the countess. Finally, she earnestly asks to enjoy the rest of the evening without incident. Scylla doesn't understand what other incidents could happen and calls it all chaos, but she remembers that she hasn't been to a reception for a long time. They were forbidden to be carried out until the prince was rescued. Because of this, she could not eat any goodies, but now, food is waiting for her. The lady takes the fork and turns towards the captain. Seeing his face, she guesses and asks him if Orzin forbade him to eat, which makes Yukis ask how the heroine found out. She replies that she was also forbidden to eat, but assures the commander that no one will know so he can enjoy the food. However, Orzin told him not to listen to Scylla when she said that. Because of this, she is even more surprised by Sir Fersen. Yukis agrees with the lady and decides to eat, because there is no one here. But the heroine changed her mind due to the too strong control of the assistant captain, to which the commander decides to do something so that no one knows for sure. Scylla wonders what he's up to. She wonders if he's going to somehow get rid of the guests. Yukis rips skewers out of the food and throws them at high speed into the candles on the chandelier, making it dark inside. Among the frightened people, the heroes hide at the table and take a plate of food with them. The heroine speaks in a whisper and indicates where they need to go. They go out onto the balcony and block the doors so that no one can get to them. Scylla sits on the balustrade, and Yukis begins to feed her. It becomes light again inside, and apparently they have turned on the lights again. The mistress asks when they can meet the high priestess. The captain replies that in a week, but if they cannot get engaged by this time, they will have to wait a month. Scylla says that they have already shown themselves to the public, so all they have to do is get permission. In law, nobles under 22 years of age could not become engaged or marry without the permission of their parents or guardians. And it looks like the heroine will have to torture the count in order to get permission. The lady says that after receiving permission, nothing else will be too difficult for them, and she asks if Orzen said anything about this. Yuka says that Sir Fersen said that he suspected something was wrong in her desire to meet with the Supreme. According to him, this meeting can be arranged, but she wants it so badly that she is even ready to get engaged to the captain, so it is a little strange. Now it's clear to Scylla what he said, and although it's unpleasant for her, she understands him, but she still can't say anything. If she is involved with the Dark Lord, and even if her holy power is still with her, this is unlikely to be enough for them to fully believe her. The heroine exhales and asks Yuches if he should have talked about this, because Orzen would probably want to keep such details a secret. The captain is embarrassed, and after a short pause, he says that he wanted to tell her about it. This makes Scylla's heartbeat quicken, and she can't believe that the captain trusts her so much. The commander also says that he was not forbidden to talk about it. According to the lady, usually they try to keep such things secret, even if no one has directly forbidden talking about them. Roll promises that when she sees her former assistant, she will go and say that she is far from the most naive knight, and she turns out to be very seasoned. Scylla hugs Yuches tightly and asks if it's not for her sake that he told her about this, to which he answers, yes. Patting him on the head, the lady says that she doesn't want to wait a month because everything will only become more complicated, and is thinking of talking about it with Orzen. Returning from the reception, Orzen immediately begins to scold Yuches for putting out the candles. Scylla starts to object and says that their captain didn't do anything wrong, and she could do it too. Fersen clings to the word our. He is perplexed by what the heroine said. The lady thinks that this really sounds strange, because she is not a member of the squad. Then she corrects herself and says, my captain, which made Orzen start looking at her even stranger. Yuches also thought about this and came to the conclusion that Scylla is his lady Eferio. Because of this, Sir Fersen begins to get even angrier and asks him not to teach the captain any nonsense. Scylla replies that this is not nonsense at all, they are engaged after all. But the captain's assistant notices that this is all for fun. The heroine says that therefore they need to be as convincing as possible in this production. Orzen wanted to say that he shouldn't take everything too seriously, and he was also shocked that a lady of her origin could behave like this. Suddenly someone knocks on the door and a woman comes inside with a plate, who brought the order of the assistant captain of the squad. The woman, seeing Scylla, introduces herself as Sana. She is the cook of the squad, and she is glad to meet them. Since they were unlikely to be able to eat properly at the reception, she prepared simple snacks for them. The heroine notices in her head that they really only tried desserts, so she's already a little hungry. After trying the snacks, Scylla praises the cook and is allowed to take more refills. The lady can hardly eat at the Eferio estate, and therefore she has not eaten normal food for a very long time. Since Lady Eferio has finished eating, Orzen asks if they can talk in private. The heroine is not against it, but Yuches intervenes and says that the lady has not done anything wrong, so there is no need to reprimand her. Sir Fersen replies that he had no intention of doing so, and even if I wanted to, it's unlikely that it would have bothered her. Scylla calms the captain down and says that if anything happens, she'll just run away, and, stroking his hand, asks him to go to bed without her, because he hasn't been able to sleep well lately. Orzen tells the lady that she will break the captain's fingers, to which they respond negatively while holding hands. The captain's assistant asks the heroine to sit down, who is already sitting in the new outfit that was given to her. Sir Fersen gets straight to the point so as not to delay her, and asks what she thinks of the captain. She didn't think that the assistant would ask her about this. Scylla was expecting a question about the count, or why she was so eager to see the Supreme One. Afterwards, she replies that she considers Yuches very strong, good, kind, and understanding, and in the end, she says that she likes him. Then, Orzen decides to ask even more directly whether she likes the captain as a man, and whether she would like to get engaged to him for real. Scylla jumps up and asks him if she can marry Yuches for real. He tells her that he can, which makes the heroine wonder what Sir Fersen is up to. Scylla says that this cannot be discussed without the captain, because it requires mutual agreement. Orzen replies that whether he is here or not, it doesn't matter, he certainly won't mind. The lady shouts that she knows, but the matter directly concerns him. She did not think that Orzen Fersen is so unprincipled, although in fact, he has always been like this. He says that Yuches had to go through a lot as a child, so he is very picky. Eating 3 times a day, no threat to life, and a roof over his head is all he needs to be happy. Orson says that in fact, he is too naive. Even the king put him at the head of the detachment because he was very easy to control. So if their marriage is dissolved, Yukes will simply remarry on orders. He will live his whole life in captivity, and as others want, with his past and character, he will not be able to marry an ordinary woman for love. So his marriage promises to be formal. Scylla agrees with Orson, but she believes that they cannot say that he will never find someone who likes him. Sir Fersen nods and also believes that this is possible. And the lady stops at the fact that all he needs to do is meet such a woman, although it will be a little difficult. And it was for this reason that the captain's assistant asked her about him. The mistress replies that she definitely cannot become a good wife for him. She doesn't understand what to do, because she doesn't even know how unmarried noblewomen should behave, and now there's marriage. Orson replies that she should just be faithful to him, since she herself said that she likes him. And most importantly, she is in a rather precarious position, so if something goes wrong, he can easily get rid of her. Scylla asks him if he is running across, but the assistant replies that such threats will not scare her, to which she agrees. Sir Fersen believes that such a situation would be best for her, because she said that she wanted to join the ranks of the paladins, but the church is a terribly boring place. In addition, she will not be able to live forever on the count's estate, and if her family's conspiracy is revealed to the people, it will be difficult for her to find a husband. The lady admits that she did not think about what would happen after their wedding. If they get married, she will have to live with the captain. She thinks that this is not bad, and she will be able to live with the detachment. These words made Orson feel incredibly ashamed of the special forces, causing Scylla to wonder where the terrible demon had gone. And Sir Fersen decides to ask her one last question. If the captain wants to really marry her, will she agree? The lady replies that she has no problem agreeing, because no one forced her to return to church after all. After the lady's answer, Orson suggests that they begin to accept their engagement as real. The captain is not so young, so His Majesty could still find him a bride at any moment, but now this issue has been resolved. Scylla asks Fersen to take his time, because she wants to ask if she will be allowed to meet the High Priestess. There is only a week left, and they need to get officially engaged before then. Orson asks the lady if Yukes told her this. She replies that he did not forbid him to tell her about it. The captain's mate explains that he doesn't remember things like that, and usually has to be reminded of everything a day or two in advance. Also, Fersen says that the commander was very interested in what concerned her, and even asked about you. Moreover, he personally collected information that could help. With this news, Scylla is happy to see how the captain tried for her. Orson asks the lady if he told her anything else. She replies that he only told about the deadline. The captain's assistant does not believe her and says that he will find out anyway, no matter how hard she tries to hide it. And she confesses that he also said that Sir Fersen suspects something is wrong in her desire to meet the priestess. He decides to be sincere and says that he doesn't understand at all why she would go so far to meet the Supreme, but he will not interfere with them. Yukes would go with her anyway, so she wouldn't be able to harm the priestess. However, if she allows it, a week will definitely not be enough for an official engagement. This makes Scylla angry and explains that she doesn't want to wait a whole month, then she'd rather join the church. Orson decides to do this. He will help her meet with the High Priestess in a week, but then Missaferio will forever abandon the idea of joining the ranks of the paladins. Scylla agrees with the assistant captain's demands. She only needs to meet with the Supreme One. Orson nods and promises to try to arrange their meeting, and even if he cannot get permission from Count Eferio, he still has a couple of ways to achieve their goals. They walk along the corridor, heading to the room where Captain Eustace is waiting, but they hear loud screams of a man. The heroes enter the room, and the lady immediately goes to the captain, and Orson looks at the unknown man with a dissatisfied look. He turns to him and asks if he told the commander to ignore him. Sir Litter turns away from the man, shouting at him towards Scylla. She asks how long he waited for her. Eustace replies that he didn't. An unknown person asks why the captain speaks to her and not to him, to which Orson replies that the reason is that he does not speak human language. The man is indignant at this answer from the assistant captain. The adjutant says that since they don't understand human language, it means they don't know how to speak it. The man clearly did not like his words. He looks at him angrily and wonders how he dares to say that. Orson explains that he only needs to answer, "I understand," or "I don't understand," and suggests that he try again, because it is not difficult. The man says he doesn't have to talk to him. The assistant captain is surprised by this answer and begins to clap for him, saying that he can even reflect on himself. The man comes close to Orzen's face and asks him if he wishes to die. Sir Fersen asks for forgiveness and says that his life belongs to His Majesty, so he cannot give it to some vice-captain. Scylla, hearing that this guy is the vice-captain, is surprised by this because he seems weaker than even Crown, when strength should be valued in such units. Orzen assumes the greetings are over and asks what brings him here, noting that their last meeting was about 2 months ago. The vice-captain replies that he had heard rumors that Yukas had a passion, so he wanted to take a look, and he saw a skinny but quite beautiful girl. Scylla saw that this man looked at her lustfully and began to get angry, asking if she could beat the crap out of him. By law, paladins and imperial knights are prohibited from fighting each other, but she is no longer a paladin. The vice-captain extends his hand over the lady's head, and she decides to grab his hand so hard that it makes him cry out in pain. Standing behind Scylla, Yukas, with a fearful look, threatens him that if he touches her, he is a dead man. The deputy captain shudders at this penetrating gaze. The heroine turns to the goddess and says that she gets goosebumps from the murderous aura and understands that the captain can be dangerous. The vice-captain gets scared and starts to run away and promises to come back to this again. The lady is still convinced that this man is a weakling and says that she would destroy him if he touched him, but the captain beat her to it. Yukas asks Miss Aferio if she is okay. The girl replies that of course everything is fine, but she is a little disappointed but not angry. Scylla says she is surprised that this man is the vice-captain of the squad because you can't tell from him. Orzen explains that the Special Forces is different from others. In addition to the captain and vice-captain, the life of each person in the squad belongs to His Majesty. Thus, they are perfect pawns, which is why so many nobles despise their very existence. After all, if the detachment is ordered to get their heads, no one will be able to stop them. That is why, in place of every vice-captain, someone from the nobility is promoted just like the current vice-captain Root. Scylla concludes that, in other words, the vice-captains are spies from those noble families who fear the emperor. But in his position, he should be swamped with work, but it seems that he does nothing at all. She turns to Orzen and asks about what he said, that he had not been here for 2 months. He replies that for him, coming here is humiliating and shameful. The lady notices that he is quite frivolous, but for them, his behavior is in their favor in any case. Scylla turns to Yukas and thanks him for everything. He was already tired, but he still helped deal with this guy, and he suggests we go to bed. She doesn't want to go home, and she's at home with her sort of fiancé. She decides to send someone to warn about this. The captain replies that Crown said it was bad to do that. Madam, it doesn't matter what he said. Now they can only have one obstacle. They both look at Orzen, and he says that he doesn't care. They can do what they want, and he won't interfere. Because of this, it turns out that she will be able to walk here at night. She also notes that it's much easier with him than with her deputy. Sir Fersen will order hot water to be brought so they can wash themselves and go to bed early. He will also send a message to Aferio's house. However, no communal bathing for now. Scylla comes out of the shower and doesn't see any servants, and she doesn't know where Yukas's room is. She believes that Orzen could not help but take care of this, and someone should definitely come for her. But she's bored just waiting, and Sir Fersen said that she can do whatever she wants, so she decides to do a little exercise. Her body is much lighter, so if she applied as much force as before, she could be much faster, but due to the loss of her former muscles, she became weaker physically. In other words, it cannot now be compared with the past. Her general physical condition is in severe decline. It's a complete disappointment for her, but at least she's alive. Scylla will consider this a premature resignation. As soon as she gets her hands on all the Count's money, she will live happily ever after. The heroine's stomach growled, and she decides to go to the kitchens. Maybe there are still some sweets left. The lady comes to the kitchen and promises that she will take only a piece. No one will even notice. She was very nervous, so she wants something sweet. Scylla starts to open the cabinets and sees the ingredients as well as the seasonings. She doesn't need much. Even decorative chocolate powder will do. Out of nowhere, a rat runs out towards the heroine, and she gets scared and falls. Lady Sana and Orzen arrive at the noise and see Lady Aferio sitting on the floor and frightened. Orzen covers his face with his hand and asks the lady what happened here, and at the same time Lady Sana mourns her mouse number 3. Scylla replies that he said that she is free to do whatever she wants. The assistant explains that it is not in the same sense, but accepts it and asks her to forget my lady and leaves something unsaid. He decides to ask her if the captain was waiting for her near the bath, because he asked him to escort you out quickly. The girl replies that there was no one there, and they begin to wonder where he could have gone then, but they also do not understand whether he went at all. The servants find Yukas unconscious in the bathroom and call the doctor to come quickly. After sleeping, Scylla wakes up in the morning and sees the sleeping and very exhausted captain nearby. They were able to pull him out of the bath. He hasn't even moved once since last night. The lady strokes a lock of the captain's hair and asks if he is sleeping. He wakes up, and the heroine asks how he slept. Is he fully awake and can she touch him? To which Eustace always agrees. Lady Etherio notices this and thinks to ask him for the sword Kalidos. But however, even if he gives it, Orson will definitely take it back. She wants to pinch his cheeks and decides to ask about it, but the captain is the first to ask the question and asks if she is afraid of him. Scylla replies that not at all, and even if he came at her with a sword, she would not be afraid. She also says that being scolded by Orson is much worse, to which Eustace agrees with her. The captain says he's glad she's not afraid of him. Orson is thinking about preparing a room for Lady Etherio to temporarily live in the squad building, so that she can live here until the engagement ceremony. In other words, he asks her to leave Etherio's house. Scylla notices that she was supposed to spy and wonders if plans have changed. The captain's assistant replies that the plans have indeed changed, and also asks to leave the food on the plate if she is full, so as not to feed everything to Eustace. Last evening, Marca's daughter caught Lena and the two of them on the balcony, and even though they spread a rumor that the captain was engaged to Lady Etherio for love, the Etherio house definitely doesn't believe it. But thanks to the chatter of their witness, their lies became a little more believable. And since they are now in a more advantageous position, the situation has only become more dangerous for them. They haven't decided to do anything risky yet, but that could change soon. Probably, now it is extremely scary that Captain Eustace can lay his hands on the entire Etherio clan, so they can certainly decide to kill Lady Scylla. The lady suggests that the commander take a spoon, because it will be better, to which Orson asks to stop fooling around and listen to what he says. The heroine replies that they are listening to him. He continues to say that her family will be even more worried when she settles here. This time, they will definitely try to get rid of her. Scylla says that then it's a mere trifle. To capture her, the guards at home alone are not enough. But there must definitely be very influential people behind them. This time they too can take action. As far as the Crown Prince is concerned, it is unlikely that this is all the work of the local count alone. The heroine previously believed that the Countess must also be involved in all this. But Orson is right. The real enemy may be a bigger shot, but perhaps much larger than Scylla originally thought. Scylla believes that if you think carefully, it's true. The ruling family and the Crown Prince personally are definitely in a very abnormal situation. Orson says that fortunately, she did not have time to demonstrate all her abilities, but the incident with the crew certainly could not go unnoticed. After all, there were many witnesses to her arrival at headquarters. They also definitely know that she crippled Viscount Schwalt. They definitely already understood that she is not an ordinary noblewoman, and they probably already know that she is under the protection of the detachment. In this regard, the Count's guard could be strengthened. In other words, if Scylla doesn't want to die, it's better for her to live with them. But she thinks it's all the better and decides to go there just one more time. From this decision, Orson believes that she did not listen to him at all. But she perfectly understood everything. She just had one important thing to do. She needs to get Sophia out of there, as well as the hidden jewelry. Besides, if she just disappears, it's like she ran away, and she doesn't like that. And if he is so worried, the captain can go with her. But Sir Fersen said that this was impossible. Because of that time, the Etherio clan forbade him from entering the lands of the county. If he goes with them, there won't be any problems. Besides, she is not engaged yet, so he asks her not to involve Eustace in her affairs. But Scylla needs to take more valuables with her before they are confiscated. In addition, the necklace she received is too valuable. She cannot sell it. Therefore, she will have to put pressure on Orson for this. She asks him to let him go just once, and if it is too dangerous there, she will return instantly, and if she maintains the necessary distance, even the captain will not be able to grab her. Dissatisfied, Sir Fersen asks whether everything will go smoothly. The lady replies that yes, but he asks not her, but Eustace. He replies that everything will be fine if her opponents are the Count's guards. She will cope with them. And even if there are 2 or 3 experienced knights there, the result will not change. Orson says the commander thinks highly of her, but the captain of the Special Forces Squad is simply stating a fact. He says that she seems to be properly trained and that she handles the saddle very well. Also in the armory, she chose a sword and believes she owns it, but she also knows the rest of the weapons just as well. Scylla asks her to stop talking about it, but Sir Fersen has already started to stare at her. Why does he say that this is completely natural? She already said that she trained under the supervision of Sir Roll. The captain overanalyzed the lady. But these are her warrior instincts. She can't do anything about it. Orson decides to put the matter aside. If this is the captain's opinion, he will not challenge it. But he asks them to remember that if anything happens, running away is the best possible option. Scylla replies that she understood everything, and even if the goddess appeared in front of her at that moment, she would take her feet away from there. Fersen says that the best option would be not to go there at all, but nothing can be done and asks them to return before sunset. Scylla returns to Eferio's house and goes into her room, but she does not see Sophia. Having searched all possible places, standing in the corridor, she realizes that there is not a soul here. The heroine suggests that she could take a day off, but she is worried about Orson's words. He's not one for small talk, and if this isn't a coincidence and he's right in his suspicions, then she's taking it too lightly. Looking further for Sophia, Scylla opens more doors and sees servants. One of the servants says that they were notified by the guards of her return, and also that the Countess is expecting her. She asks if her servant is with her, to which the man replies that he does not know all the servants of the old wing by sight. The heroine thinks that he may be pretending, but perhaps he doesn't know the truth, and decides to ask the Countess directly. The stepmother meets her daughter, who greets her coldly. Why is the Countess cold towards her? And even though Scylla doesn't believe it, she assures that she sincerely wants to get along with her. The lady starts clapping and says that she probably misunderstood her. Then she asks her if she and the Countess should organize a kidnapping, or if the heroine should take everything away from her and leave her under house arrest. The mother asks why her daughter is doing this to her. Even if she is not her own mother, why does she blame her for everything? She may not have known it, but she was originally destined to die. Doctors said that she would not live even 20 years. She was placed in the old wing so that she could rest in peace and quiet, and thanks to this, she began to recover. Scylla immediately understands what's happening. A fatal illness is a convenient excuse to cover up a contract with the Dark Lord. The stepmother realizes that because all this was not explained to her, she began to hate her. The heroine notices strange people behind the Countess. She is surprised that she dares to continue this performance with these guys behind her back. This is probably what Orson warned her about. There is also Gyne among them, which she is not at all happy about. The Countess says that she took care of Scylla, and you allowed yourself to be fooled by the captain, and now she is going to hand over the county to him. Even though she is her precious daughter, her patience has run out. Miss Eferio laughs and says that this is a normal engagement, and there is no need to dramatize it. Mother says that she is the last blood heir of the family. If she marries the captain, then the county will go to him by law. That's why she's worried. Scylla replies that since she says so, she has no other choice, and asks why she doesn't give up her rights to the earldom. The Countess is horrified by her daughter's statement. She asks if Scylla really wants to cut off all ties with her family. She replies that if she gives her enough money, she will do it without any problems. The stepmother says that the lady misunderstood something. She is only worried about the squad captain. She never said that she wants to get rid of her. They can't let go of their precious daughter. Scylla is at a loss. She believes that the Countess wants to make her son the heir of the family, but perhaps the contract with the demon is more important to her. However, evidence that they entered into a contract at all can hardly be found. Only the Supreme One can feel it. The mistress thinks that her mother probably knows that through the captain she can meet the priestess. The party does not know that Scylla is a victim of the contract, unlike the Countess. Therefore, she simply cannot let her go, and now it is not surprising that she hired these guys to arrest a simple count's daughter. The heroine has already decided everything. She will renounce her rights to the county and wants to take one maid with her. The stepmother says that her servant is right here and asks if she wants to see her. The lady's arguments are confirmed, and yet her maid is in the hands of the Countess. Sophia is being held by 2 guards from the house of Eferio. Trembling, she turns to her milady. Scylla pays attention to her, and she is surprised that she will be blackmailed as a maid, but she cannot give up so easily. Not only her life and the ruling family depend on this, but the church is also under threat, and she has only one thing left. With a terribly intimidating voice, she turns to Countess Eferio, which is why she asks her what kind of tone she is. The mistress says that since they are now nobody to each other, then they need to be treated accordingly, although they were initially nobody to each other. Now she stops shaking the air in vain, and says that if she lets Sophia go, they will leave quietly and peacefully. The stepmother with an evil grin asks what will happen if she refuses. In Scylla's situation, she can only save the maid by giving up. With her current abilities, she won't be able to handle them all. She asks you to remember that if the Countess kills her, she swears in the name of the goddess that every day of her life will be full of suffering and pain. Until her very last breath, it will turn her life into a living hell. The Countess says that she only wanted to talk to her daughter. She would never harm people dear to her. She asks to calm down and discuss everything peacefully. However, Scylla tells her to stop talking nonsense. All she needs to know is whether she will let Sophia go or not. The stepmother jumps up and shouts that this is a simple misunderstanding and that the special forces deceived her. The mistress tries to shout out, "Countess Eferio," but suddenly she feels blood dripping. She is confused by this, and her gaze falls on Gain, in whose arms Sophia is. Gain pushes Sophia towards the heroine, and now the maid is in her hands. This makes Scylla perplexed, because he should be at one with the Countess. But despite her arguments, he takes the sword into his own hands. The stepmother asks how he dares to betray her now, to which he swings his sword upward and replies that he was never on her side. Mother shouts that he won't get far with two burdens anyway. The traitor laughs and says that Lady Eferio has been in the estate for more than an hour and a half. If he does not give a signal, the detachment will break through here. The lady understands that all this time, Gain was the spy in Eferio's house. Scar. Orson had it all figured out. He didn't say anything because he hoped she would leave Sophia. The Countess trembles with fear and orders the guards to seize Scylla and kill her. The guards object to this order because she is also their mistress. And even if the detachment is about to be here, this is already too much. The stepmother replies that she betrayed their family, but the guards stand their ground. Looking around, she realizes that all the servants are now against her. She falls over, breaking the cup in the process. Mother says that she was wrong and is ready to do whatever the heroine wants. Before they can finish speaking, the Countess is killed by masked men. Scylla orders to quickly go after them, and Gain tries to catch up with the killers. She assumes that this is how they shut up their mother. They need to capture the masked people, otherwise they won't find out the truth, but it's too late. Sophia asks the lady if the Countess really died, to which Milady replies to her servant that she was killed with one blow. Euchus comes running to them on horseback and immediately lifts Scylla into his arms, which makes the girl a little shocked. Euchus asks the lady if she is wounded, because there is blood on her hand. She tells him that it is just the Countess's blood. Scylla's hand is bandaged, and she is asked to pretend to be wounded. All this is done by Ela, Sana's twin. The lady remembers her and her pudding. The heroine asks that Ela should be the squad's cook, but it turns out she is also a pharmacist. After all, cooking and making medicine are quite similar. But Miss Eferio does not agree with her. They don't even taste the same. The squad's cook says that she didn't expect that the Countess would be eliminated so easily. She could still be useful, so it's probably not that simple. Scylla guesses what the matter might be. Perhaps she thought that the squad found out that Eferio's eldest daughter was to be a sacrifice to the Dark Lord. And since today, they failed to capture her, with the help of the detachment she will get to the Supreme One, and she will confirm this. And in this case, the county will come to an end. Once they realized that they would not be able to capture her, they decided to get rid of the potential source of information. However, even though she wants to reveal Scylla's identity, it is not time yet. Orzen's thoughts. She will have to keep quiet until she meets with the Supreme. Ela says that they will tell the public that several mysterious people attacked the estate, but the captain accompanying his bride drove them away, but the Countess could not be saved. Crown says that then he will shut up the servants, but they tell him that this is unnecessary. The enemy probably won't benefit from the extra noise either. First, they will take care of the Countess's body, then they will go to look for the Count. And Ela also asks when Scylla and Euchus will become unstuck from each other. The lady says that she herself told her to play the role of the wounded one. The squad's cook replies that it was her arm, not her leg, that was wounded, so she asks them to disperse. The captain does not even bring the heroine down to earth. She was sorry that she had to do this, because the mistress felt comfortable in her arms. Afterwards, she turns to Sophia and tells her to stay with Isla, and she herself will go after her father. The maid says that it could be dangerous. What if masked people are hiding somewhere else? The lady assures that everything will be fine, because the commander will also go with her. The heroine is happy about this outcome, because she will finally be able to see the Count, but she doesn't know if he's even still alive. They search and examine together the entire luxurious estate of the Count. And when Scylla wanted to knock on the next door, Euchus says he was worried. Miss Eferio reminds the captain that she is very strong. Orson deceived her anyway. She asks the commander if he was pretending not to know that her maid was captured, to which he nods at her. Because of this, the girl begins to get angry with Sir Fersen. If it concerned only her alone, Scylla would be able to escape calmly. But together with the captive, even if she managed to free her, both would not be able to escape. Therefore, Euchus was very worried, because the lady could be in danger. Sila is touched by Yukasami's words and says that if she lost Sophia, she would be very sad. Of course, she could hide it, but that doesn't mean she wouldn't be sad. The lady smiles sincerely and thanks the captain for his care, but he replies that he was only slightly worried about her. However, Orson would not just let him go, and she asks if they really broke through by force. The commander is embarrassed by this question and says that Sir Fersen was the first to lie to her. Of course, he is often right, and this time it could be the same. Perhaps Yukas really shouldn't have come, but he really wanted to come. Scylla says he has nothing to worry about and advises him to follow his heart. In any case, what's done is done. Therefore, she is confident that Orson will take care of everything. According to the lady, Yukas should not worry about little things, and he should not forget about it, because he is the captain. And also, you don't need to reveal your secrets just like that. Their conversation is interrupted by a loud sound, and it looks like the Count was found. One of the servants asks the captain to come to him. They found him, but something is wrong with him. They open the doors of the room where the Count is sitting and see him sitting in his chair. Ela comes close to him and says that he is dead. Scylla notices that he is too young, which is why the squad cook asks the lady if she has seen him before. The heroine replies that they just haven't seen each other for a long time, but he still thinks that he looks too young. Moreover, if he had been dead for a long time, his body would stink. Ela notices that the body is too clean and suggests that the Countess could have embalmed it with something. She grabs the Count's dead body by the face and rips off the mask. Hidden under the artificial skin was a head made of wood. Apparently, the Count has been dead for a very long time, so someone imitated him. Now they are unlikely to find anything here. One thought comes to Sila, and she asks the squad cook that, after all, her father has nothing to do with what happened. Ela replies that it seems that the Count is not to blame for anything. He was 24 years old when he married his first wife. She passed away quite early, and the Count remarried. He was most likely around 30 when he could have died. Perhaps he helped the Countess at first, until they quarreled one day and got rid of him. The rest of the time, the Countess was a fake Count. Scylla notes that this is Ela's opinion, but the Countess could simply be deceiving the Count. It would be wonderful if everything were like that. If the Count was tricked into sacrificing his daughter, and when he found out the truth, he went against them, for which he was killed. Back then, Scylla was still loved by both of her parents. The party's cook says that he will take care of the rest, and Lady Eferio can return. Scylla notices that Ela is clearly disappointed. She can be understood. For the squad, such an outcome is probably a simple waste of time, but for her, everything ended well. If they had found out that she was a victim, things would have been much more complicated. Neither the Count nor the Countess will tell anything. The lady is ashamed of this, but for her this is the best arrangement. The heroine calls Sophia to follow her, but they don't have time to go somewhere because knights come to them. One of them remembers that the Eferio clan forbade the detachment to set foot on their territory, so he asks how they dared to get here. Scylla wonders if he came only because of this. Even if the squad says that they were not told anything like this, it will be difficult for them to get out. It looks like these guys are from the Imperial Knights, but it is unlikely that the person who spoke to them is their captain. The heroine does not recognize this guy, but she remembers his coat of arms on the cloak. This is the coat of arms of the de Margos family, the family of the Emperor's younger brother. He was adopted by the Duke of Margos, who had no heirs, since he had already renounced his rights to the throne while still a child. But it is unclear what one of his knights forgot here. Crown asks to be allowed to explain everything. They came to rescue Lady Eferio, their captain's fiancée. Someone attacked the estate, so they came to her aid. Before leaving home, she warned them that they might break in if she was gone for a long time. But before their arrival, unknown people killed the Countess and fled. The knight asks if there are witnesses to this, and of course there are. The servants and Lady Eferio herself saw it with their own eyes. The knight decides to close his eyes to what happened in this case. Crown asks why this man is accompanying the Imperial Knights. The man replies that he just stopped by to visit them the day before. He believes that it doesn't matter who exactly they serve. After all, they are all defenders of the capital. The squad member thinks this is a strong argument, but Scylla still thinks that the coincidence is still incredible. They all return to the squad headquarters, and Scylla bursts into Orson's office. Sir Fersen says that it seems that the lady missed him very much, and she cannot imagine how much he worried about her. He takes the heroine away and asks the captain to return to the office. The captain's assistant notices that Miss Eferio is covered in blood and suggests that she go and wash herself. Their servant will take her to the bathroom. Orson didn't even give a chance to say anything, and because of this, the lady wonders if he is going to go back on his promise. Sophia asks her milady that they will no longer be able to return home. Scylla thinks that this is true because the house has been cordoned off until the investigation is completed, and then it will probably be confiscated. Such an event, which occurred even before the connection with the Dark Lord was revealed, and although all the details have not yet been clarified, everything became much more complicated. She believes that defending her title and property will not be easy. Sophia asks what milady will do since she can find a job, but the lady is unclear. She replies that she doesn't mind the rest of her property. The main thing is that she has the necklace. If things get really tight, she'll sell it. After the heroine's funeral, she wanted to quickly return to the paladins, but she doesn't want it so much anymore. Her subordinates are not weaklings. They've probably already dealt with the loss. Scylla is sure that her mother will understand her if she has to sell the necklace one day because of poverty. Although she is not the heroine's mother, she saved her daughter's soul, so she will probably forgive me. Sophia asks if the lady was not going to marry the captain. If so it will be, then you won't have to sell the necklace either. Scylla replies that they haven't taken it any further yet, so who knows what awaits them. Now she has to just go with the flow. In the worst-case scenario, Scylla will be accused of having an affair with the Dark Lord. Then it will be difficult to get married. Euchus was also a victim after all. It can only hit his reputation harder. Sophia begins to get angry. She thinks that the captain decided to abandon the lady because her family fell. She barely agreed to get engaged. He has many opportunities to change his mind. This means that from the very beginning he was aimed at her family. Scylla replies that Euchus is not that kind of person and assures that everything is fine. However, the servants still think this is not so. According to her, he decided to break off the engagement at the very moment when such a misfortune happened to her. He simply seduced her for your fortune. Sophia says that the lady has had a lot of troubles fall on her fragile shoulders, and now this heartthrob too. However, the heroine herself begged for the engagement, so technically she was the one who seduced him. She has never said anything like this before, and according to Scylla, the captain is very nice. And they are very close. They have even slept together. Hearing this, the servants scream in horror, asking what they were doing. In the evening, Orson calls the heroine to his place, after Sophia's 2-hour lecture. Sir Fersen asks Lady Aferio to come and asks if she has any preference in tea. Scylla replies that the sweets are more important, not the tea itself. The captain's assistant smiles knowingly, and the lady asks him if they are poisoned. Scylla notices that he is quite happy and asks why he is like this, suggesting that it is because of the fall of her family. He replies that he already doubted that the count was alive, but he did not think that the countess would be eliminated. After all, it could still be useful, so he doesn't understand why they did it. Because he can't understand the reason, it's incredibly annoying to him. Taking a cup of tea, the heroine says that the time is almost up and asks when they will hold the engagement ceremony, wondering if Orson has changed his mind. He replies that he hasn't changed his mind, which makes the lady surprised by him. The captain's mate thinks it will be wonderful if they get married. Orson says that no one can resist their engagement anyway, so they can get engaged even tomorrow. But since they will soon announce that both heads of the Aferio clan have been attacked, it is better to wait a little. Getting engaged right after losing a parent won't look good. However, Scylla shouts and says that she needs to meet with the Supreme. Sir Fersen says they may hold the engagement ceremony the day before their monthly church dedication, although they may have to postpone it if the moment is not yet right. The lady thinks this is a bad idea because Captain Euches will then not be able to receive the blessing. The assistant captain asks not to worry about this. The church allows them to arrive 3 or 4 days earlier. The blessing usually lasts about 30 days, so they come on the 26th or 27th day. The heroine is surprised by this because she constantly received blessings. Despite all the cues or deadlines, she decides to put the matter aside and tells Orson that he knew that Sophia was captured, but he hid it from her. He didn't expect her to find out about it and says he didn't think she would care. He smiles and giggles, and Scylla tells him that he is a scoundrel, but the assistant replies that she already knew about it. They achieved good results. However, the revelation of Gein's identity was a somewhat unpleasant circumstance for them. The lady doesn't think he looks annoyed. Orson replies that she is right. Since the Countess is dead, it is unlikely that it will harm them much. And he personally told the spy to intervene if necessary, since she cared about the maid. The heroine says that she did not expect such care from him. Sir Fersen replies that it is not too late to realize that he cares for her more than she knows. They finish their long conversation, and Scylla goes to look for Captain Euches. She wants to cheer him up as soon as possible, because Orson probably scolded him for a long time. Along the way, she meets Gainskara, reluctantly thanks him for his help. She didn't expect to get to the point where she would thank him, but no matter what they shared in the past, she was in his debt. The spy of the Aferio house replies that he rather needs to ask her for forgiveness. According to him, it was he who misunderstood her and put her in danger. Scylla replies that it's nothing and is surprised at how he behaves. She suggests that this could be his mother-in-law, but they are identical in appearance. Gain asks to be allowed to apologize again and bows to her. The girl is frightened by his behavior and cannot accept this. She decides to ask if he has a twin brother, to which he replies that he is the only child in the family. Scylla realizes that it's really him and decides to quickly run away to the captain. Gain turns to Lady Aferio and warns not to trust Orson too much because he is a dangerous person. The heroine responds to his warning and says that she knows it. The lady looks for Yukis throughout the headquarters, but cannot find him because the building is too huge. She stops to take a breath and sees Lottie. She decides to ask him if he has seen the captain. He replies that he hasn't seen it, but he may know where the commander is now. There is one place where he goes very often. Lottie takes Lady Aferio to the dungeon. The captain comes here all the time in his free time. He said that he liked dark places like dungeons. Scylla is very cold and surprised that there could be such a place under the building. The boy points to the place where the water flows and tells the lady to follow the sound. Going down there, she sees the captain sitting alone. Yukesh is distracted by the light of the lantern, and seeing Scylla is surprised at her arrival. She asks what he was thinking so deeply about. After a short pause, he begins to tell something about Orson. The lady is glad that she guessed why he was like that. He says that Sir Fersen told him that he needs to seriously think about their wedding. The heroine replies that he told him the same thing and that he allowed them to marry. And she asks the commander if he really doesn't want to marry her. But that's not the point. He just heard that one should marry for love, but he believes that Lady Aferio does not love him. She replies that this is probably true. She likes him, but it's definitely not out of love. The captain also likes Scylla, but he doesn't know what love is. The lady recalls that they often confessed their love to her, and she received many love letters, more than anyone else in the empire received. But she never had a relationship. She says that many people say that the one he loves shines in his eyes. Although maybe it was all about the color of her hair in the past, but all the ladies around her said so it's probably true. Yukis says that the day she jumped out of the tavern, she really was shining. But she dispels his opinion with what was very clear that day. Scylla says you can't fall in love with a stranger at one glance. And then the captain decides that the truth does not love her, just like she does not love him. Yukis thinks that it is better for them not to marry. After all, she can still meet her love. She replies that he is also able to meet his love. However, he explains that even if he falls in love with someone, it is unlikely that they will reciprocate his feelings. The heroine does not understand why he thinks so because she likes him. But other people just don't like the captain at all. Due to his reputation, most would probably not appreciate him unless they were of a similar personality to hers. Lady Aferio asks not to be such a pessimist. Nobles also often do not have to hope for love. Many are simply forced to get married. But even if it is a fake marriage, she will be happy with him if she is with him. Yukis will also be satisfied with this, and therefore Scylla offers to get engaged. And if neither of them falls in love with someone, then they will get married later. Captain, can they do this? To which the heroine replies that Orson also agrees, so everything will be fine. Scylla sits on the bench and is bored, because she has nothing to do at all. She wanted to spend time with Yukis, but she did not know that he had more things to do at his service than she had. He goes to court every day, and often has to learn disciplines he doesn't even know about. She has a feeling that she is the only one loafing here. Suddenly the vice captain comes up to her and gives her flowers. He says that he has come to free her from demonic captivity, and vows to protect her with his name. The lady is perplexed by his actions, and she considers his gift stupid because it is not even edible. She asks in what sense he plans to free her from the demonic plan. He replies that, frankly, because the scoundrel Yukis is leading her by the nose, he considers him abnormal. The heroine protests this and wonders what he wants from her, and why he calls a normal person abnormal out of nowhere. She doesn't want to continue listening to this nonsense, but since she's bored here anyway, she thinks he can entertain her much better than worthless flowers. He replies that he really likes assertive ladies, but before finishing speaking, Scylla gives him a small blow to the face. She asks why don't they have a sparring session instead of boring conversations. Blood begins to run down the vice captain's cheek, and he says that Lady Aferio is crazy, calling her a damn bitch. She feels sorry for this, because the squad is supposed to practice sparring, but she doesn't understand why he's so annoyed. She thinks he might be afraid of losing, so she reassures him that she can fight with half her strength. The vice captain takes out his sword and says that he wanted to be polite, but calling her impudent trash, but she herself dared to do such an act. He lunges at her with his sword and orders her to shut her mouth. Scylla dodges his attack and disarms the deputy captain with a slight movement. The lady didn't expect it to be so easy, and she also didn't think he was so pathetic. Ruth lies on the ground and insults the heroine again, this time calling her a rabid creature. He asks if she really thinks that he can get off easily after this. Scylla asks what will happen to her. Will he run to his daddy or run to his mom and say, "Mommy, I have Bobo! Punish her!" He shouts that he will kill her, but suddenly, Kalidos falls on his head. Euchus comes to them and grabs his deputy, which is why he is clearly not happy. The captain asks whether the lady is safe or not. She replies that she is fine, but he better raise Kalidos quickly, otherwise Ozer will scold him again. But having said this, behind her, Sir Fersen is already shouting at the commander. Ruth orders him to be released and asks Eukesu if he really thinks that such a sick bastard is worthy of becoming a count. He is still the same wicked and vile. Scylla wonders what the vice captain is talking about. She doesn't know what's going on here, but she assumes it's her. As he leaves, the deputy captain says that he will file a complaint about what happened today. The lady asks Orson what Ruth was just talking about. The assistant decides to first call her inside, and there he will explain everything. Orson says that Scylla Aferio has now become the head of the clan. This makes sense, since she is the only direct heir after all. She asks what then everything belongs to her now. He replies that it is so, although much has been lost, there is still enough left. Lady Aferio asks if someone stole something. The captain's mate explains that this is actually why they started investigating Aferio's house. Both interest on land earnings and simply huge sums were regularly sent from her home to somewhere else. Perhaps her family financed someone else. The heroine suggests that in the process of investigating where such large sums were moved, they found out about a connection with a demonic clan. However, a good part of the fortune still remains. With the title of count comes wealth, and Orson honestly says that she is now a very attractive target. Many men want to seduce her. Sir Fersen says that he has stacks of invitations and love letters addressed to her. As expected by the heroine, she is still popular even after changing her body. He asks if she wants to read them, to which the lady replies that she shouldn't. And this is good, because in the end she will soon get engaged, so she simply does not need them. Scylla asks Orson how the investigation is going, to which he says that the count died about 10 years ago. Most likely, this was arranged by the countess, but her family said that they did not know this woman at the time of her identification. It turned out to be a fake. They haven't said a word about this before, so he's not sure if they have anything to do with all this. But one thing is clear. The countess does not come from their family. They also suspect her of making a deal with the Dark Lord. She probably became a countess with the help of a demonic clan. Because of this, things became even more difficult for Scylla. At least 2 count houses are involved in this, along with another strong player behind them. Finding the real instigator is now difficult. Therefore, they plan to close the case with the conclusion that the countess was plotting something to lead the Aferio clan. They will say that one of her supporters killed her when the squad revealed her reading. Orson says that the best lies are made from the truth. The lady decides to ask that, when everything is over, will her family become? The assistant replies that she will, but she will have to give Lady Rowena part of the inheritance. The heroine also wants to ask about marriage, but Euchus suddenly shouts out that this is enough, which makes them look at him in surprise. He looks at Lady Aferio strangely, as if he is unhappy about this. The commander takes her hand and leads her out of the office, despite the fact that they have not yet finished speaking. The captain asks for forgiveness for Orson, and despite the fact that he deceived, left in the dark, and used the lady, she says that it's okay, because that's just his character. Sir Litter says that he allowed her to stay here because of him. Scylla replies that it was she who insisted on the engagement, and as she already said, her marriage would still be forced, so it would be better for her if it was him. But then he did not know that he would become a count if he married her. It was difficult for him to get a noble title just like that. He and Crown even argued about this, which is why Orson clung so tightly to Lady Aferio. She asks if he wants to become a nobleman, to which he replies that he doesn't want to, but he doesn't want to part with her either. Scylla becomes indignant and says that he will not marry another man just because of this, and if he is so worried about it, then they can just give away the title. However, Orson will be furious if he finds out, but if the captain really doesn't like it that way, then they have no other choice. Yuka says that's not the point, he just doesn't want Sir Fersen to prevent her from meeting other people. Suddenly, she will find her true love among them. Scylla is sure that anyone who starts courting her will hunt for the title with family privileges, such as vice captain. Then the captain decides to ask what kind of men she likes. She thinks that she doesn't care about appearance, just like wealth, and replies that she wants a man whom she can rely on the battlefield. Yuka says she will try her best to become someone she can rely on, but he doesn't need to do anything because he's already strong. Therefore, the lady asks how much stronger he is going to become. Although Scylla said about losing the title to Yukesu, she should discuss it with Orzen. But the trouble is that she doubts that he insists on their wedding for the sake of the captain. The lady opens the doors of Sir Fersen's office a little and asks him if she decided to renounce the title, would he still like to marry them? He replies that of course he did, and the lady wonders why. The thing is that he thinks they are perfect for each other. Even if she lost her title of nobility, he would still hope for their marriage. But, of course, he would prefer that she remain a noblewoman, not only for the captain's sake, but also for her sake. He explains this by saying that her status is very important after all. Even the law separates nobles and commoners, and this is a huge gap. Otherwise, the loss of the title would not be such a problem. Even though Yuches is a knight, which is very similar to the nobility, as soon as he retires, the crown will take away all his privileges. Scylla agrees with this. Being part of the church, she was obliged to carry out her service all her life unless something out of the ordinary happened. Knights usually retire at some point, and a captain is no exception. For the sake of his future, he had better acquire a stable title of nobility. They called it a retirement plan. However, the title will be useful in many other matters. In addition, the highest nobles will not be able to interfere so easily in the count's affairs. Now many look down on the captain. She herself saw it earlier. The vice-captain does not consider Yukas as he should. And all this comes down to the fact that the commander is not a full-fledged nobleman. Among all the imperial knights, he is the only one who has nothing beyond his knighthood. Because of this, he is easy to put pressure on, and many nobles simply do not fear the squad. Even His Majesty consistently pretends not to notice this. Scylla didn't think that the emperor was such a person. Now she thinks they should keep the title, even if it's just to help the captain. Orzen says they had long thought about marriage for political reasons. He can prepare the ceremony as soon as they want. This will also benefit her. After all, she needs marriage to secure the title. Lady Aferio agrees with this, and believes that it is better to do this as soon as possible, at least for the sake of Yukas. But on the other hand, they don't love each other, so she's not sure that getting married anytime soon is a good idea. She asks Orzen if he would mind if she thought it over again. They still have a lot of time for this. Sir Fersen replies that in fact there is not much time. An unsecured title won't last longer than 6 months, so she'll have to make up her mind during that time. She agrees to this and says that if she does not find another candidate for husband in 6 months, she will marry the captain. Scylla walks down the corridor and thinks that Orzen is up to something, but there is no way for her to know what, especially if she is hiding it from her. She's not that good at a battle of wits. Along the way, she meets Crown and tells him that she heard that he also wanted a noble title for the captain. He replies that it would be better for him. Then, at least the emperor and the high nobles would not be able to manipulate him so easily. This means that he also wants them to get married, although he previously strongly objected. But now everything has changed, and he also insists on their wedding. If she gets married, he will buy her whatever he wants. Scylla decides that he is a rich man, and Crown says that his current wealth is 10 million gold. Because of this, the lady attacks him and asks how this is possible. Even the church's budget is less than 5 million gold. He replies that this is the church. 10 million barely makes up 1.5% of the total external turnover. His net worth is actually 3%, but since half of his income goes to the captain, that leaves only 1.5%. It turns out Yukas is wildly rich. Scylla again bought into the way Orzen cried about his resignation, despite the fact that even after it, everything would obviously be fine with the captain. Lady Aferio notes that he values him very much if he gives away a hell of a lot of money every year. Crown says that they have known each other for a long time. Then he was a coward, but the commander always protected him. He considers it a good waste, so it's okay if she marries him because of his condition. But of course, it will be even better if she marries him, because she simply wants it. While at the ceremony, Lottie says that he would never have thought that the captain would get married so soon. But Lady Sana was sure that they would get married so soon because everything was arranged by Orson. Sophia feels as if it's a child's birthday party and not an engagement ceremony. Of course, everything was organized in a hurry, but they were not able to send a single invitation. Also, they only announced the ceremony yesterday, so it's disrespectful to the guests. Scylla explains that this is so that she will not be disturbed by all sorts of parasites who only need money from her. Mr. Yukes and Lady Eferio exchange wedding rings. Now the captain is officially her fiancé, and the mistress is his bride. The heroine believes that now Sophia will stop constantly reprimanding her. Everyone around them claps, and suddenly General Herva comes to the ceremony. First of all, Orson greets the man and says that he, as usual, is only good at scratching with his tongue. Scylla asks her fiancé in a whisper if this man is his patron. He replies that it is, and the heroine notices that the captain looks worried. Sir Herva congratulates Yukes and Lady Eferio. He extends his hand to the lady and shakes it, which makes her find him quite interesting. She greets him by addressing him as Jenner, but he asks to call him uncle because she is his godson's fiancée. Scylla asks him if he's not just a patron. He whispers it in her ear and says that this is what the public thinks. If he reveals that Yukes is his godson, he will be watched too closely, because he has no heirs. In this case, the godson has all rights to the inheritance. His relatives will definitely not be delighted with the situation. But because of this, Scylla doesn't understand. Then why would he even marry her? All these retirement plans are like a joke from Orson. The general apologizes for rushing in empty-handed. He was in a hurry, but would like to congratulate them appropriately. Next time he wants to celebrate with a glass, but Yukes takes his bride to him and says that this will never happen because Lady Eferio does not drink. He asks how she can cope with his love of drinking. Scylla replies that it's true. She doesn't know how to drink at all, but I would still refuse because alcohol has a nasty taste. Sir Herva starts laughing and pats the captain on the shoulder. All this time he thought that Orson forced him because of his desire to connect him with the Eferio family, but he was clearly mistaken. The general turns to Lady Scylla and entrusts him completely to her. The heroine says that he is a little unusual, but good. Yukes replies that he's the only one who's pretty stubborn. She asks if he is difficult to get along with, to which the groom replies that it is. The captain decides to ask the bride if he can call her by name, as his godfather did now. She thinks she should answer, of course, but tomorrow she has a meeting with the Supreme. Scylla replies that not now, but tomorrow when they return from church, he can start doing so. Of course, by then, she will no longer be Scylla. Scylla and Yukes come to church in a special outfit. They are greeted by a girl with luxurious white hair. She leads them to the Supreme One. Roll remembers that this girl is Iner. She wonders why the Holy Virgin is seeing off visitors and thinks that she has been punished again. The heroine believes that she probably had a quarrel with one of the elders. Knowing her, this could very well happen. She leads them to the place where the Supreme One is and asks them to control themselves, no matter what they see there. The lady wonders why they should control themselves, but if she were Scylla, she would probably be shocked by her first personal meeting with the Supreme. But now, the most important thing is different. She tells Yukes that she has been hiding something from him all this time. It's not a big deal, she says, but she asks him not to be too surprised by what he might hear. The captain says no matter what, if she doesn't want to, he doesn't have to hear and asks her not to worry. Scylla doesn't know what he was dreaming up, but she thinks that she is not the one to worry about. They go inside, but see an evil spirit and are horrified by it. The Holy Virgin asks them to calm down. She says it is not an evil spirit, but the Supreme One. Iner asks not to attack her, but just wait. The heroine had always been fascinated by how the priestess could change the color of her hair and eyes in an instant, but she had never seen her in such dark shades before. The Holy Maiden turns to the priestess and says that she has brought Captain Yukes and his bride and asks to bless him. The Supreme turns to them, and Scylla wonders what if it's really her? What happened to her? The evil spirit turns into a blinding woman. She shouts out Roel's name and rushes into the heroine's arms. The lady remembers this dazzling light and understands that it is definitely a priestess. Sparkling, the Supreme One is surprised by the arrival of Roel, and now understands why the goddess was deaf to her pleas to say goodbye to her for the last time. She is happy that everything is fine with her. However, she looks a little different, but still just as lovely. The heroine is also glad to see her in good health. The Supreme One hugs her tightly and tightly, calling the heroine's real name. But Yukes takes Scylla away from the hug and asks her not to touch his bride just like that. The priestess is surprised that Roel is now engaged and asks her about it. The lady blushes and says that it happened so, and she herself did not expect to ever get engaged. The captain asks the Supreme why she addresses Lady Etherio as Roel. Priestess wonders if he knows about this. Scylla replies that she just couldn't tell him. He wouldn't believe her because she was transferred to someone else's body. The Supreme decides to explain to the captain since everything has led to this. She says that the soul in Lady Etherio's body belongs to the paladin Roel. A person is defined by his soul, not his body. In other words, this is Roel. The heroine believes that he should be shocked now, but when he first saw her at the tavern, she was already Roel, so it doesn't change anything. However, Captain Yuches stands dumbfounded upon learning this news. He looks more shocked than she expected. Lady wonders that maybe he hated her. The captain turns away from the lady and says that he is sincerely sorry for everything that happened up to this moment. He leaves this place. Scylla screams his name and tries to follow him, but the Supreme One grabs her hand. She asks to let go of her hand, but the priestess asks for forgiveness and says that now it is impossible and asks to listen to her. Inner will make sure that the captain cannot tell anything to anyone else. The Supreme One is holding the heroine using holy power, so she cannot free herself. Suddenly, the High Priestess says that all this was a trap, which makes Roel stand in shock. The Supreme Commander assures that it was all a trap. They do not know their motive, but they suspect that His Highness's curse was a trap aimed at destroying the relationship between the ruling family and the church. Scylla wonders if the curse was real. The priestess replies that it was, but this whole situation is a perfectly planned trap. Going into the demon world alone was dangerous in itself, but she simply didn't have time to hesitate. If the heroine had not gone, the crown prince would have been in danger, and the ruling family would have condemned the church. However, she still went and died. The captain of the paladins sacrificed himself because the crown prince did not receive his blessing on time. In any case, the church and the ruling family are pitted against each other. Now Roel understands what's going on. Whatever her choice, this crack in the relationship could not have been avoided. She suspected both the count and the countess of having cursed the crown prince. But if it was not them or any other noble, then it must be someone who benefits from the destruction of the connection between the church and the ruling family. That is, this is the work of a demonic clan. The Supreme believes that they are definitely connected to all of this, but there is still too much unknown to draw conclusions. First, they will meet with her adjutant. Now he is one of the few people they can still trust. Roel meets with Sig and says that she is still alive, just in a different body. He kneels down and says that he is very glad that the paladin captain is safe and sound. With a rather dissatisfied look, he says that he heard that she is now engaged. She explains that this was the easiest and fastest way to meet with the Supreme. Sig notes that this was well thought out, and now she can break off this engagement. The heroine hides her hands with the wedding ring and says that this is not at all necessary, but the adjutant explains that she has no need to continue this circus since she has already achieved her goal. He assures that she need not worry. They will more than compensate for this incident. He believes that they definitely agreed to the engagement in order to take advantage of the benefits of the county. They may grant them a similar title, but Roel heard that it would be difficult for Captain Yuches to get the title. But Sig raises his head and assures that there is no problem with this. She asks if they can just stay engaged, which causes the adjutant to ask the lady if she is in love with Sir Litter. The paladin captain can't call it love, but she likes him, and he's also a wonderful person, and they get along well, so she thinks it would be nice to marry him. She wonders if this is possible, but Sig replies that it is absolutely impossible. If she loved him, but marrying him just because he is good is impossible. In addition, it is enough to feed her to become a wonderful person. Roel believes that she is not so frivolous. Although the captain really fed her pudding on the first day they met, and technically, Orzen gave her a lot more sweets. The holy lady pushes them aside and asks them to calm down. She knows Yuches and assures him that he is a really good person. Sig wonders what kind of special forces captain he is, and suddenly the Supreme One shouts out that he is practically a copy of Roel. As the adjutant expected, it won't do. The paladin captain says he can say whatever he wants. In any case, for now she cannot tell anyone that she is still alive. He will also try not to spread himself in the church. They will only let a few trusted people know. You can't trust someone just because they serve the same goddess. In fact, there are plenty of greedy people in their ranks. That time, when Roel believed that Gyne had wrongly accused one knight, he was forced to leave the church. The captain asks if he is talking about Palma. He's surprised that she knew, but the heroine explains that she found out not so long ago and asks why he didn't tell her anything. The adjutant replies that Hein himself wished so. He said that he did not want to bother her with such questions. Now because of this, Roll is gnawing at his conscience. All this time she considered him a scoundrel. She asks Sig who else he wants to tell. First he will call the vice-captain and Sir Bettine. He thinks they can be trusted. Sir Bettine wonders if it is really their captain. Roll replies that she just changed a little and asks how he was doing. In response, he asks with horror why the captain is a woman, to which she replies that she has always been one. A little later, he also finds out that she is engaged and asks who this girl is, to which they first of all tell him that this is a man. Sir Bettine understands that with such an appearance, it really must be a man. Roel says that she has always been a woman and tells him to stop this clownery and fall into her arms, shedding tears of relief. Although he can't bring himself to cry, he's glad she's safe. The heroine takes him by the collar and says that she saw him at her funeral, and he didn't look sad at all. The Supreme asks not to blame him for this. At that moment, he already suspected something was wrong with her death. She already said that the goddess did not allow her to say goodbye. She usually doesn't oppose this without a good reason. Therefore, they suspected that something was wrong here. She could end up in someone else's body, or her soul could be completely destroyed, or she could be imprisoned somewhere. They agreed on these options, so they tried to find a solution. Bettine says that if her soul was destroyed, they could not do anything, but if it turned out to be one of the other options, they could somehow save her. Therefore, the adjutant began a secret investigation. They concluded that both the relocation and the imprisonment of her soul could only have been arranged by a demonic clan. But crossing the Black Desert was difficult, so they did not advance far. The Supreme says that they even thought about concluding a contract with the Dark Lord as a last resort. The heroine is horrified by this and says that the church cannot do this. That's why they wanted to do it secretly, but she is sure that there is nothing to be happy about. If they found out that the Supreme One had made a deal with the demonic clan, the consequences would be dire. Roll says that if something like this happens again, they should not even think about doing such a thing. She won't say thank you to them for this. In response, they just smile at her words. She thinks that they will definitely do this, and therefore she needs to be extremely careful from now on. Suddenly, the vice-captain of the Paladins, Testa, comes in and joins the conversation. He sees the new appearance of the captain and also asks if she has become a woman. The heroine says that the countess who entered into a contract with the Dark Lord is dead, and she became engaged to Eustace in order to meet the Supreme One. The priestess comes to the conclusion that she has yet to find the instigator. Roel asks if she can summon the spirit of the countess or count, as she wanted to do with her. However, this is impossible, because not all souls remain near the goddess. Most of them forget their lives and reincarnate. After silence, Sig says that there is another participant, the Dark Lord. Now they have nothing left to do. Bettine says that even if he knows the truth, they cannot meet him. Judging by her story, he has lost his strength and is unlikely to leave the desert. But the adjutant says that they may well get him out of there. Sig asks about what Roel said about the Dark Lord loving to show off. She replies that he is just like a cartoon demon from fairy tales, but he seems dumb. The adjutant asks why don't they send him a letter then? He is sure that the demon will agree to meet with her if she begs to be pulled out of Lady Aferio's body, and even if not, he will probably send a reply letter. However, this infuriates the captain of the Paladins. She does not want to make herself look so pathetic in front of this idiot. But even if they write a letter, it is unclear how they will send it across the desert. Sig assures that there will be no problems with this. There is one method, although illegal, but effective. There are always those who can cross the border, both among humans and among demons. However, the vice-captain says that even if he agrees, he will not be able to go far. They will have to meet somewhere in the desert. Bettine says that they don't know if he really lost his powers, and he too may not come alone. Roll says that they will need to seriously prepare for this meeting, but they cannot involve paladins in this. Therefore, they need to enlist the help of a special forces unit. They must agree, since they themselves will be interested in this. The heroine decides to ask them and is going to go right now. Sig says that he will go with her, and the vice-captain and Bettine will also look for suitable excuses to go with her. While in karate, Roel and her adjutant are on their way to the squad headquarters. He says that from now on he will call her Milady. She is surprised that it is not even Lady Aferio or Lady Scylla. He explains this by saying that he cannot call her captain in public. Moreover, he is about to leave the church. The heroine asks him why he wants to do this, because he never talked about it. Sig decides to tell a story to the paladin captain. He says that a long time ago, Lady Fortuna of the Archduchy was struck down by a terrible disease, and she found herself on the verge of death. The Archduke prayed to the Supreme for help. Since in her condition, it was impossible to bring the patient to the Supreme, he hoped that the Supreme would come to her herself. But it was too dangerous for the priestess to leave the church, and therefore he was refused. If the emperor himself had ordered this, the answer would not have changed. But the Archduke did not give up. He was ready to sacrifice everything to the church, even his own life, his wealth, the privileges of even his eldest child. Since such a thing would definitely be condemned, the incident was kept secret. Important people in the empire may know something about it, but many know the whole story. Roll believes that he is telling this because the child was Sig, and she asks him about it directly, to which the adjutant only smiles broadly at the lady's question. He says that churches and ranks do not matter here. Moreover, since there is already an heir, there is no need for him to return. The heroine asks whether it would be better for him to stay in the church. Sig replies that even though he became a churchman, he did not have holy power. It was only a matter of time before everyone found out about it. He barely began to feel the bitterness and helplessness of his situation. He met the captain when she was still a vice-captain. After this meeting, he finally understood why the goddess brought him to the church. He thought that only he could handle the vice-captain. She remembers this. Then he constantly muttered that someone like her should not be a captain. That's what he thought at first. But very quickly, he realized that she was worth remaining faithful to. Testa will soon be made captain, but Sig is not interested in him, and he copes just fine without help. Roll asks what he will do then. The adjutant replies that he will leave the church and become the butler of the Iferio family, so he can stay with her. She asks if her opinion really doesn't count, to which Sig replies that it doesn't. After this, the heroine asks at least someone to save her.